From eternal glory bright, God spoke into endless night. Let there be celestial song and angel voices pure and strong. Were fashioned by his mighty hand, heaven's first orchestral band. Lucifer, the morning star, raised to heights near yet far, given wisdom, beauty rare, to lead the grand celestial air, first conductor of God's praise. His glory set hearts ablaze. When the Father speaks, the music flows, each word a symphony that grows, angels lifting holy sound. As creation song unfolds around, heaven's harmony begins to play, as darkness turns to day.
All right, we're here, and hopefully everything's going good tonight. We're running a little bit late, but not much. Yeah, I got music playing instead of what I should have going on over here. There we go. All right, awesome. We are on the road to recovery from all this stuff. All right, good to be with you tonight. Hallelujah. We're going to share some really interesting things tonight. Hopefully, you have your stuff together in your head, knowing that we're going to share some prophetic things and kind of let you know what's going on and that. Yeah, all that. All right. Give me a second here as I get some things going on over here. I'm going to get in the flow. It's Monday. It's Monday. Yeah, it is Monday. All right, if you want to call into the show, you can see it right there on your screen if you'd like to do that. And also, you can have my phone number if you want to text me, let me know something, whatever, a prayer request or whatever. I got it right here for you. Right here, 214-505-8719. And that's my text number for the ministry. I don't talk on that phone hardly ever, but you can text me on it if you'd like. That would be awesome. And we are going to talk about some really important things tonight. And hopefully you are ready and prepared for this as we share it. Um, what I believe is a very important message that hopefully you'll be able to understand. People who are listening to us for the first time are probably going to not understand everything. So you'll have to catch up, I guess. Somehow you have to catch up on information, and some of the information I may leave out. I'm used to sharing it so much, though I'm adding some brand new things tonight to this. I am also, I am on, right? Okay, I'm on. Yay, I'm on. Um, yeah, so I'm sharing some things. Make sure I'm up here. All right, make sure I'm up on all my audio and everything is doing good. All right. Okay. Welcome. We are watching the market kind of go crazy. I think it started going crazy like last week, and we're going to share with you some fulfillment of some words that we have given about this, so you'll know that it's all under control, if you will, if you want to call it under control. That way, you can know that I say under control, meaning that the Lord knows that it's going on, and He's told us about it already. We didn't exactly have the exact timing on when it was actually going to manifest, but after you listen to me tonight and what I have to say about this and what the Lord has showed us before, some of you have been listening to me for a while, will know exactly what I'm talking about and what's going on and what we're trying to say. because it'll be pretty clear to you. And if it is not clear to you, please text me tonight at 214 505 8719 as I share with you some very powerful information that um, if you don't quite understand it or you just have some questions about it, you can ask me questions all night long and I will do my best to answer them for you. Okay. So we're talking about the market tonight, and we're talking about some very important things in the market. Like I said, some things we've already prophesied about um, a while back. Okay, so everybody knows what's going on with the market, right? And if you got a question, you can text me at 214-505-8719. All right, that's twice I've said it. Maybe I may say it a few more times so people can, when they get on, they can know they can ask me questions through my text number. We, uh, as you know, the market has really gone down quite a bit. Some of the markets are in bear territory, which means that it's kind of a definition of uh, a definite low. I'm going to try to just speak in English and try to instead of speaking in um, things that people won't understand. So pardon me if I just want to like talk English here so people understand the language, the financial language a little bit. Okay, so we have watched Donald Trump um, doing some things. He's put some tariffs on, and those tariffs have started. I think what last Wednesday was it? Last Wednesday they started. Hey, give me a second here. Wednesday he made an announcement that the tariffs were kicking in, and that China and others are going to start paying their part and all that. If you're familiar with that, all right. So uh, Donald Trump is a very market-minded person. He understands the market. He's been in the market for a long time. He understands things that affect the market. He knew that when he uh, put those tariffs on, that it would affect the market. Of course, he knew that. He's not a dummy, and he's not. Some people might criticize him. He's like Joe Biden. He does stuff, but he don't know what he's doing. Nah, he knows what he's doing. And when he put the tariffs on the put them out there on Wednesday and put them into action, activated them. He knew good and well that the market was going to go down, right? So it was controlled by him actually. Now I don't know if he knew exactly how much the market was going to go down, how much the market was going to be affected, the stock market, but he knew that it was going to affect it. So when he did it with the purpose of knowing that it was going to affect the market. That was going to cause a crash, and it did cause a crash. We've basically had a bit of a crash going on, and he has crashed the market, knowing exactly what he's doing. So that's my point I want to make tonight, along with the prophetic word that we have given. Um, this is 2025. I gave that prophetic word about a man-made market crash. If you keep up with me at all, you know I gave that word. I've never even heard of a man-made market crash in my life. I started getting that information in 2023, about November of 2023. Um, I had a date given to me 2 years in advance, October the 13th, 2023. I was given that date. I told you guys about it after the fact. I wasn't able to give the information before because if people would have made decisions on the market and it being a man-made crash, they would have lost all their money, right? So now I didn't really know that exactly at the time, but now I look back and I'm going, why didn't you let me tell people about the crash that's coming, um, and the date? Like everybody knew a crash was coming, but they didn't know or knew that we were talking about a crash, a market crash coming, but they didn't know what the date was on it. Like I did, I knew the date that it was supposed to begin. I didn't know all the details, but I knew the date that the market was supposed to crash or begin crashing. And of course, after it October 13th, when there was no apparent evidence that a market crash had happened. um, I went into like, okay, so are we? Because I didn't have a certain date. I had a date on when it was going to begin, or when uh, the market was going to begin to develop the crash, whether it took a week, a few days, a few months. I didn't know. And so my thinking was, as I've shared many times, when you have a regular crash in a market like 2008, I gave a word about that. I gave the exact week it was going to happen. And nobody else did that as far as in the prophetic realm. I was the only one. And that gave, actually, not the, I didn't give the day, but I gave the week that it was going to happen, and it did happen, and that's a documented fact. And so, I've had a mantle of the market given to me since 2005, and it's been proven over and over and over again that God has gives me supernatural information concerning the market. I'm not a market person, never been a market person, never been a financial person at all. And I mean at all. When I had a family, I didn't keep the books. I didn't write check. I wrote, I'd write checks, but I didn't keep up with the checks and the books. I didn't do it. I just wasn't. It wasn't my thing. I let my wife do that. So that's just what we did. And so anyway, I brought the money in, and she took care of the bills and paid things and just took care of the books. So that's the way I did it. So I was not even interested in any of it. Didn't even have a mind for that, a brain for it. I wasn't really thinking in those terms of that. Um, so this show tonight is about how a prophet like Jonah. We're going to talk about Jonah tonight again, but in a way that maybe that will add some things to it that uh, some of you have never seen before about what's happening right now with the market. I'm going to share with you what's happening and where it's going to go and why it's going there. All right. So the show tonight is about uh, the prophet realm, like the prophet realm of Jonah. Jonah was a had what I call of course, a true biblical Nineveh, because that's what the book of Jonah is about. It's about a scenario that happened that over Nineveh, where Jonah was given a word of the doom of Nineveh. Not, God's going to be mean to you. Not God's going to shake you up a little bit. No, you're doomed. And I'm going to read that to you in just a moment. He spoke of the doom of Nineveh, gave no hope, no grace. Sometimes the prophets will say, if my people who are called, there was none of that. And I'm going to read it to you exactly the way it was given in Scripture. So this whole show tonight, we're going to tell you why Donald Trump, about the man-made, which is what God showed me, the man-made market crash, which has never happened before in history that I know of. There's never been a man-made market crash that I know of. And so I'm going to share that with you. It all started last week on Wednesday, and he began to crash it. He crashed it on purpose when he gave the word on the tariffs. He knew that was going to affect the market. He might not have said, "I'm going to take the market down," but he did say, "This is the medicine that America needs," and it had to do with the market crashing temporarily. That's what he's looking at. Okay, so, and it was a man-made. It's a man-made crash. It was man-made because he's the one who started it on purpose, which makes it man-made, right? I gave that word in November of 2023 that we would see a man-made crash, and I did not even know what that was because I'd never heard of a thing before like that. Did not know who was going to do it, how it was going to be done. I knew Joe Biden was going to prepare the way for it, which he did. He got America the waste that they had and the money that they got. Nobody even knows where it went. Trillions of dollars went places that they can't even trace it. It's been unbelievable. So the word that I gave, that God gave me about Joe Biden putting America in danger, Donald Trump is now in position to try to save that. However, it's going to go exactly where I told you it's going to go, and that is it's going to form a. They're going to begin to form a new currency, and the dollar will. I don't know if it'll be done away with, but it will become less important because of the mess that it has made. Uh, with other nations and other countries. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, why it's going to go there, and that the economy is in a lot worse condition than we know it to be, and Donald Trump and Elon Musk are diving into it and they're finding out that the losses were and the damage to the economy was worse than they thought. They're not being specific about uh, worse than they. Well, I guess they are being specific about that actually, and I think it's worse than they. They knew it was bad, but I think it's a lot worse than they thought. Therefore, when they end up trying to save it, in the process of saving it, I'm just going to get to the core of this, and then I'll unravel it. And the process of them trying to save it in the next few months and weeks, that in the process of that, it's going to turn it to the currency thing I told you guys about, where we're going to kind of wake up one morning and I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. They may tell us they're going to do it a day. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen specifically, but I do know that we're going to basically wake up one week, one day, and they're going to have said, we didn't want to tell you guys this, but our economy was a lot worse than we thought. Joe Biden, and they will blame Joe Biden. Joe Biden's not the only one, but he finished it off basically. Like, we prophesied this when before Joe Biden became president. We prophesied that Joe Biden would do this, and he has done it. I didn't know exactly all the details, but he has done that, and that's going to be proven. It's already being proven now that that word was from the Lord, and not only that, the fact that we gave information of a man-made crash. I did not understand what the man-made crash was about. Now I understand it. The man-made crash that they're performing right now, that began like last Wednesday, I believe, when he announced the tariffs, that began a crash in our system. I mean, the market just went down thousands of points, and so they're talking about depression. They're talking about all kinds of things, and I've already told you, you guys, and everybody who's, 2 or 3 years ago, that they're not going to let it crash like a regular crash, right? That was what 2008 was. 2008's crash was out of control. They they jumped in there and they tried to do some banking things, and they did. I guess they did okay. Very difficult situation, but it was a natural crash, if you will, through bad business deals. This thing's going building up, building up, and building up, and then it just crashed. A natural crash. This, however, is a man-controlled crash. Trump is doing good, I think. I'm gonna, you know, uh, I voted for him, so even though we know the story about the Nineveh thing, but what happened was Trump is doing a controlled crash, because if he doesn't do a controlled crash, we will eventually have an uncontrolled crash. So therefore, you can thank him and Elon Musk for doing what they're doing, because they are doing a controlled crash. And it's not necessarily what he wants, but he knew that it would happen. So it's a man made crash. So they're doing it on purpose. They're talking about it. I don't, the whole thing. So where it's going to end up in in May or June of next year, somewhere in that area, a year and a half from the day that he got voted in. That's May or June, May the 5th, June the 5th. I'm not giving an exact date on that, but it's a year and a half from the time he became president, about a year and a half, because the Nineveh thing that I went through in Lubbock, Texas, with the earthquake, and I told him in 40 days an earthquake's going to shake Lubbock, and then the people went and prayed, and so I had a Nineveh. It didn't happen, and the only reason we knew it was God at all is because a year and a half later, for the first time ever, an earthquake shook the buildings, shook the ground, tore up things in Lubbock, Texas, that never happened ever before. That's why everybody knew that what I had put in the newspaper uh, a year and a half before that had some validity to it, because it had never happened before ever. Of course, the unbelieving world tried to bury it, but they couldn't. How can you bury something when everybody in town felt it? You can't bury that. So, uh, so, so that was my Nineveh. A Nineveh is where a prophet comes in and says, like in 40 days, like Jonah said, in 40 days, this uh, this city is going to be destroyed. Period. And this is what he said. Uh, right here, let's go to the scripture. And Jonah gave a no hope message to Nineveh. He said, in 40 days, Nineveh will be overthrown. He said, and God says, arise and go to Nineveh, the great city, and preach to it the message that I tell you. Now, watch this. This is very important that you understand this. He told him to preach the message that I tell you. Don't say something because you're bitter and you don't like them. He didn't do any of that stuff. He was a pure prophet, and he said exactly what God said. And he told him, he said, I want you to say this. Yet 40 days, put a date on it, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. That was it. There was no more message. Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. Not maybe be overthrown if you guys be nice. No, it was a doomsday word. And it had to be a doomsday word in order to break Nineveh because Nineveh was very hard hearted and there were a bunch of torturers, even of the Jews. Okay. So, and then it didn't happen. So that's a Nineveh. A true Nineveh is where an obvious miracle was done because of the word. The word that Jonah gave, the doom word that Nineveh will be overthrown. Not maybe, not if you, but you have to read it exactly what it says. You get 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. In other words, that's it. Y'all going down. Well, they repented, just like uh, it flipped them out. They flipped out over it, and it didn't happen. And the prophet got mad. Well, 150 years later, it did happen because they went back to the thing. 150 years later, it did happen, right? So even though it didn't happen, it made Jonah look like a false prophet, or he just missed. Some people say he missed a date, but he didn't miss a date. God told him to say those words exactly. He said, "What thus saith the Lord," and "Thus saith the Lord" didn't happen. That's why this is in the Bible. It's a very rare prophet situation where he puts a date on something and gives it no hope. You will be overthrown, period. He walked through the city 40 days, speaking these harsh words over the whole length of the city. The king of Nineveh. Here's what made this a Nineveh. A Nineveh isn't something where, a prophet says something and then all of a sudden the prophet says, oh, it was a Nineveh, when we don't really know what happened exactly. What happened probably is they missed the word. A Nineveh is an obvious situation where the king on down, a heathen king on down, and all the people repented and got right with God. That was a obvious Nineveh situation. You can't just say, "Oh, it didn't happen because I feel like some people were praying. I feel like some things happened." You can't say that. You cannot say that. There has to be for it to be a true biblical Nineveh. It has to be a true Nineveh situation scenario like this, where the king, the head authority, and all the people underneath it, something like that, where they all repented and got right with God. Right? Okay. So I received a word. I received words like that. The Lubbock, Texas word. I've talked about it many times. It's a documented fact that I gave a word, put a date on it, and when I walked in there and told, put the ad, going to put the ad in the Thrifty Nickel, one of the, it was a very, very, very popular uh, paper in Lubbock, Texas, where I was at, and I put in there, I had a dream that God showed me an earthquake's going to shake Lubbock, Texas in 40 days, and I put my name on it. Said, God loves you. Get right with Jesus. He loves you, right? And so I gave it to the lady. As you guys, most of you guys have heard this. Some people haven't heard this, so the lady reading it and going to find out how to charge me, read it. Earthquake. This guy had a dream, an earthquake going to shake Lubbock, Texas, and in 40 days. And so she looked at me. She said, "Sir, did this really happen to you?" I went, "Yeah." She goes, she starts reading it again, and literally, I'm not exaggerating. She starts shaking, crying, stood up into my face, sort of, and not angry or anything, but just freaked out. She said, "There's a lady who works here. Just last night, she had a dream that an earthquake was going to shake Lubbock, Texas." She ran off to the back, came back a little bit later, and put my ad in the paper, and there's a lot more to the story, but I'm just telling you short version. So what happened? Because that lady had a dream. I never met the lady, don't know the lady, never talked to her in my life, still don't even know who she is. Had the dream. So because of that, everybody starts spreading it around that this guy comes in and confirms the dream this lady had, and they didn't even know each other. So it spread it all over town. People just believed it. Churches all over the place. It was the buzz of the whole town. Radio stations were talking about it. I got interviewed by a local television station there. A pastor friend of mine was worked there, and the guy told him the boss said go talk to this crazy guy, and so he did. He said I know that guy. He's not crazy. He just happened to know me. He's one of my pastor friends. So he interviewed me at that building, and long story. So anyway, it became a really really big thing, right? A big thing. It just kind of exploded, and not like I thought it would. I was hoping it would just kind of go away, and I did my thing, and I could go home and go to bed, and that's it. I told them, and I tried to tell them. They wouldn't let me tell them, but they did let me tell them, and I was set up by God, literally. So what happened was that Nineveh situation. I lived in Nineveh. I know what Ninevehs are like. 100 a year and a half later, the the earthquake, literally 4.7 earthquake, literally shook that whole town with testimonies, like I said, all over TV and radio. So it was definitely it wasn't just some I think because they prayed and got together, that was it, and that no. I mean, not only did they pray and get together and pray, and did God confirm it with that lady who worked there, which was totally supernatural and freaked me out. And all the church's bulletins were full of it. We're going to meet down there at that building that Chandler says is going to happen, and they all prayed and they prayed the earthquake away. In my opinion, it's like Jonah. How do we know it was a word? Because a year and a half later, to the day, just about to the day, a 4.7 earthquake shook the whole town. Okay, so now Nineveh isn't. Oh, they prayed and got together. We think it went away because they prayed. No, a Nineveh is they prayed and it went away, but who knows whether it was of God or not until it actually happened a year and a half later. An earthquake had never shaken that town, literally physically, with the buildings ever before. So that was the evidence that it was a Jonah and Nineveh situation, right? So you just can't say every time a word doesn't come to pass that it was a Nineveh without any proof, any real proof. So when President Trump became the president of the United States of America, I told you for a long time he's not going to become president again. And even though I voted for him, even though I loved him, I like this style. I like most things about him. God says, I want you to tell my people. So the word of the Lord went to work, and I don't think I can just like Jonah, and it went to work, and it created a Nineveh. People were fearful that Kamala Harris was going to take it, and it freaked them out really bad. And they went to the polls and they voted miraculously Donald Trump, the king. A miraculous voting thing that happened that was totally miraculous, which was a definite Nineveh. Okay, so then Trump comes in, and he got in November, confirmed in January, and then February, March, April, 3 months later, what does he do? He crashes the market on purpose. Knew what he was doing, did it knowing, because if he wasn't an economy guy, he was kind of like some guy shooting from the hip and didn't know what he's doing. It would be a different deal. But he knew exactly what he was doing. And a lot of people saying he did it on purpose. He even says, "Well, it's just our medicine. We have to take our medicine." He even told people, "This is going to be a rough time. I'm going to start these tariffs, and it's going to create a rough time. Just get ready." He tried to warn people because he knew what was going to happen. So how does that the word of the Lord? Because the word of the Lord said, I told you guys, I've never seen a man-made crash. I don't think there's ever been a man-made crash ever. There was a man-made crash by the president of the United States who was voted in like a Nineveh kind vote, miracle. And now he is doing another thing, uh, and he's bringing to pass. I want y'all to listen to this because we're talking about a year and a half time, a year and a half season. If you look back and you count a year and a half from, let's say, the next couple of days, this week, let's just say start this week, start today, and you go back a year and a half, what date are you going to come up with? or what date, if you start at October the 13th, 2023, and you go a year and a half forward, what's the date going to be? A year and a half for a shaking to take place. Like it took, like I gave the word in Lubbock, and a year and a half later, just about to the day, 4.7, that word came to pass. That word came to pass after a year and a half and shook the whole town with testimonies everywhere. An obvious Jonah and the Nineveh situation, even with the same date, 40 days put on it. And that was not a mistake. That was God's word, according to the scriptures. So what happened then? So if you count a year and a half from October the 13th, when I said the crash was going to begin, because the Israel war started, that was 6 days before that, October the 13th. On October the 7th, on my birthday, the Israel war, uh, Hamas attacked Israel, and it began to create pressure. Pressure. You know what creates earthquakes? You know what creates stress marks in economies? Is a situation like Hamas and Israel, especially Israel, because Israel is the central place of God's kingdom and where he's at, where he created everything, and where everything began, and Israel, his people. And when you have a situation that is totally out of control, unbelievable that happened there, much like the Holocaust, then it created a pressure among the whole world. Anti-Semitism started spreading like wildfire. Why? The pressure, the pressure, the pressure that creates earthquakes, the pressure that creates uh, the economic earthquake that is now began to have a first sign. A year and a half, you look up the date, go from October the 13th, 2023, and count up the days, and a year, it'll be a year and a half, just about to the day that I gave that word that the economy crash was going to begin. And so all the pressures begin to happen. Everything, all the Israeli thing, the war and all that, and the war with Putin and all the things going on in Ukraine, and all the stuff happening all over the globe. This pressure was beginning to build. The woman was beginning to have pains, getting ready to give birth to something. And what happened? About almost exactly a year and a half later, on the 13th of which will be this Sunday, will be exactly a year and a half. And I don't know. I've always said when the earthquake happened, it happened about a year and a half. I don't even know the exact. I haven't gone back and looked at the exact date to see, but about a year and a half, within a few days. Same thing we have here. Same scenario. The cracks began to manifest. You understand? We said Biden was going to create some cracks in the economy, right? And begin to bring the economy down, and America down, and sovereignty to a place of, a total change. So that the new currency that God wants coming in, that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are going to be the ones that are going to cause it, are going to begin it, to begin one side. There are going to be two sides to a currency. We're going to have our own currency. We've talked about Texas. Texas now has now has its own stock market called Y'all Street. I think that's what they call it. Moved from Chicago to Texas. That was a big major thing with Texas. But America is, we're going to have parts of America that are going to have its own currency. Then the Antichrist system is going to separate out from, because they're going to hate Trump and hate everything we're doing. What are they going to do? They're going to build their own. They're going to have their own system that is going to be the one world global system that is going to be different from the system Texas is going to have, and some of the United States is going to have. It's going to be two different systems. So you have two different systems of currencies beginning to work. Elon Musk is the one who saved Ukraine from the Antichrist spirit of Putin. Remember, we talked about this many, many times over the years, how I used him as an example of what's going to happen in the future. Remember, we used him as an example of how this was going to happen in the future. In the future, I said, we're going to have something like Elon Musk, who saved Ukraine by giving them satellite systems, which gave them ability to make transactions, to purchase things, to have telephones, communicate. Elon Musk did that, y'all, and we talked about this many times to the point where people just going, "Is that all you're going to talk about?" And the reason we did that is because it would get into your brain really heavy and big time, so you would never forget it. I just wore you out with it. Like, how could we ever forget that? Because you said it so many times. Exactly, exactly. So, uh, so Elon Musk was used, as we said, to save Ukraine, if you will, from an invasion that would have just taken a few weeks. He would have won it easily had not Elon Musk gone in there and given him satellites set up, right? It's a documented fact, right? So we use that many times in talking on the show. How that in the future, remember that? In the future, we're going to have something like Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk is working with Trump, who's now president, a Nineveh president, if you will, from a miraculous intervention from a prophet who had has had Nineveh situation before and had another one with Donald Trump. I mean, and I so I don't want to get into all of it right now. I want to stay focused here because where this is all going is you're going to have two different systems set up in the coming months, not the coming years, the coming months. One of them is going to be that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to set up a system where we can have, so it will have its own system so that those who hate Trump, those who are the anti anti-Trump people, because God is using Trump right now, as we know. I know I voted for him. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know, but uh, but him and Elon Musk, you got to think about it. Elon Musk saved Ukraine, gave him a system. Who has a system right now in Austin, Texas? He lives in Austin, Texas. He's got a satellite system that we could set up totally separate from the one world government, which is going to do nothing but oppress us and fight us and come against us and try to take us over, just like they did, just like Putin did with Elon Musk. When Elon Musk put his system, but he had to upgrade some of his system because they kept invading it, trying to get in there and mess it up. So because Putin knew that Elon Musk had saved Ukraine basically from being taken over in a few weeks. It would have happened easily. Putin had it all planned out. So do these Antichrist people have it all planned out, how they're going to take us down. Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. We're going to have an Elon Musk again. He's in Texas, got our own satellite system. We can have our own ability to have our own cable, our own systems, our own transactional systems for finances and banking. And the Antichrist system, that they're going to have their own thing. And this is all being set up right now, y'all. We are Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's going to be a new currency, a new way to make transactions, and they'll work into it little by little. Or exactly, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do it, but that's where it's going. And I told you guys this, that when the man-made crash happens, they're going to make it into they're going to develop it into a currency, a new currency. Well, not only is the Antichrist global people going to do it, we're going to have Donald Trump and Elon Musk doing it for us in a nutshell. Okay, it's just blowing anybody's mind. Nobody's really responding yet, so I think maybe you're just listening. But okay, so there we go. All right, so we are sharing with you all this information tonight because I told you that I would. I sent you a text. If you're not on our text alerts, when I give a message, like I give a specific message tonight saying I'm going to talk about uh, that. So a year and a half now, I got the word about October 13th, 2023, that the crash was going to begin. Now I didn't understand it was going to be a man-made crash at the time. I thought it was going to be a natural crash, like the word I gave in 2008. I gave the exact week it was going to crash. Okay, he's saying the Dogecoin already exists. Yeah. Well, there you go. So I mean, I'm not keeping up with it that much. I just guess I got so much going on, y'all. There's so much stuff happening. I'm just in a lovely position. Actually, I'm having such a blast. But so this is what's going on. So just like if you guys were with me back when Elon Musk was over there and Putin was invading Ukraine, and when I found out that he had set up a satellite system and saved Ukraine from being taken over by Russia, I told you guys right then. I got all the documentation to prove it. I know I'm. Most of you know, you believe me. Some people that listen for the first time going like, "You did what?" Yeah, I told you over and over again, use that example about Elon Musk saving Ukraine, and we're going to have a situation just like that in Texas and in America. Of course, not all of America is going to be doing it. We know that, right? Even though a lot of them voted for Trump, they're going to go after it, man. It's going to be quite a deal. So I'm trying to give you a little bit of the piece of the puzzle tonight that what is happening with, because we warned you to see what is 2025, 23. I don't remember exactly when I started warning you about it, man. It was 20 November 2023. I started warning you. I said, God showed me it's not going to be a natural crash. It's going to be a man-made crash. Now, I didn't understand who was going to do it. I didn't know that. Now look at it. That's exactly what's happening. And it began October the 13th, 2023. 6 days before that, the war started. 3 days before that, October the 4th, our ministry took 90% of its funds, of every dollar we had in there that I'd saved up for years to buy a building. God said, I want you to invest it for my people into them. So I went and bought thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of gold and silver coins. And since then, that if you go back and look at that, in 2004, gold and silver has gone off the roof. Why? Because Randy Tanner knew what he's doing. Are you kidding me? God led me the whole way. I can't even take any credit. God told me. He said, get it done. He told me to get the coin thing done before October the 13th, 2023. I've mentioned that date, I don't know how many times, maybe 100 or more. Is a date he gave me 2 years in advance. As I told you guys, you all know. I didn't tell you what the date was because I couldn't tell you, but I told you I knew the date with 2 years in advance. And it was October the 13th, 2023. Okay, if I'm not getting this all together right, I know what I'm talking about, but if I'm not saying it in a way that you're getting it tonight, please let me know. You can ask questions. You can ask specific questions if you'd like. I would love to answer your questions. Or maybe you kind of have a good question that maybe could help people understand things. Okay, so James Graybill is on with us tonight on Facebook and YouTube, and he's saying the Dogecoin already exists. It existed before Trump was in office. Okay. You can go to dogecoin.com and find it. Thank you, James, for that. Okay, I was not aware of that. Very interesting. So now I don't understand. I've never been a Elon Musk person. I've never been against him. We've talked good about Elon Musk, right? When he helped Ukraine, I talked good about it. I said, man, we're gonna have something. I said, we're gonna have something like that in Texas. He moved to Texas, of course, and now the satellite guy who I said we're going to have our own satellites. Remember this? I said this way before he moved to Texas, that we're going to have our own satellite systems. We're going to have our own everything. We're going to be able to separate our system out from the global system and have our own system. Texas is going to have that. I said specifically Texas and other states, but specifically Texas. Y'all remember all that? That's all documented. I know you know, but some people have never heard this before. They're going like, "You did what?" The Lord's been telling us this stuff. I didn't know all the details of it. I did not know that Donald Trump was going to be doing those things. Um, okay, so I got people texting me. I'm going to make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is what is happening. So what this is leading, what the man-made crash is about, which I told you about 2 years ago, the purpose of the man-made crash is one thing, is to control the crash so that it doesn't crash, like out of control. And then as they control it, they know they're going to have to change the currency. They're already, I don't know if anybody's saying this or not. I've been talking about it for 2 or 3 years now, saying that they're going to have a man-made crash. Never heard of one before, never seen one before. God told me, he says, have you ever seen a man-made crash? I'm going, what's a man-made crash? He said, exactly. I didn't ever heard of a man-made crash. Never heard of it before in my life. I prophesied the natural crash in 2008, the week of it, the very week, right? Yeah, that's a documented fact. And I gave a warning to a market guy in 2007 when I laid hands on Huckabee and poured oil on Huckabee's head back in 2007. On the boat, we went out the next day on the boat to go fishing, and I'd never been deep sea fishing before. They said, "You want to go deep sea fishing, Chandler?" I said, "Yeah." We got on the boat, came back, and the guy was standing behind me, who was a market guy, right? Big market guy. I turned around to him. I said, "Hey, man, the market's going to have a major crash, you know, pretty soon." He goes, "No, it's not." I said, "Yeah, no, it is." He said, "No, it's not." I go, "Yep, it is." And we just kind of moved on. He's a nice guy. Kind of moved on, and went and ate, had our fish cooked up, and all that kind of thing. And then when it happened, he apologized to me and wrote me a check. It wasn't a big check or anything. It was, I think, $1,000. I don't remember exactly what it was. But he apologized to me. He meets me. He comes to Texas. He comes to my area. He calls me up and says, "I'm in town. Can you come by for a minute? I got something for you." I went, "Okay." Went over there. He wrote me a check and apologized for not receiving that word. They came out good on it because they stayed in the market. But I've also warned them again. Those same people. I've warned those same people again. All right. I've warned them again. I warned them months ago. I documented the whole thing. I warned them months ago. I said, don't play with this thing too long, because this time it's not going to be returned to you. Once they take, once the system people, they're not, maybe not Musk and Trump, what they do, but they're going to make the system where, you know, you're not going to be able to keep your money in it and keep your money in it and then get your money back. Okay. I warned them about that. I said, please do not play with this, to these market people, these people that I know, and I know a few. And so, anyway, so if I haven't made it clear tonight, if you want to tell me what you understand what I've said, I want to make it really clear what I've said. That I gave you guys a word even last week, saying that just like my Nineveh word happened after a year and a half, the city of Lubbock, Texas, literally shook. A 4.7 earthquake shook the whole town. It wasn't just underneath; it was the whole town shook. Buildings, people, testimonies, radio shows that made fun of me. The guy who interviewed me, uh, my pastor friend who from Abner. You can look up the person, Abner Uresti is his name. He's in NBC, ABC. I don't know what affiliate. I can't remember what affiliate was at. He's the one. That's the same place that interviewed me. They had to go find this nut and interview him. They call me a nut. And my friend Steve said, he's not a nut. I know him. He said, we'll go interview him. So he interviews me. The camera guy hated me the whole time, even though he didn't even know who I was. That was some crazy man saying the earthquake couldn't shake Lubbock, when earthquakes didn't shake Lubbock ever. The physical top of the building never shook Lubbock ever. And so they interviewed me. I mean, this is all in history, man. I mean, and I watched myself on TV pointing my finger to the camera saying, earthquake going to shake this town in so many days. I looked at myself on camera, going on TV with Abner Uresti, because Abner Uresti is kind of the manager. I think he manages it. Maybe he owns it now. I don't know, but he opened it up. He said, "Oh, we have a special event tonight," and he introduced. He said, it was me. I was a special event. And so I told him, pointing my finger at the camera, that's the camera guy. Like I said, his face was red, dark red, from anger at me. Like, who do you think you are, telling people stuff like this? You lying dog. He didn't like me at all. And I did it anyway. My friend Steve, who interviewed me for the ABC, NBC affiliate, Avenue Restica, he said, just be yourself, Chandler. I know you. Just be yourself. Okay. So I just pointed my finger at the camera and told him what was going to go on. And it had a loving message of repentance. I never been a judgmental person who wants to bring judgment down on people. I speak what God gives me, and then whatever God wants to do, it's his business. Right. So this is what's happening, y'all. Okay. It's a man-made crash. We started giving that word, what, 2 or 3 years ago? Something like that. Man-made crash. I said, I didn't know. I never heard of a man-made crash. That's happened. What's the man-made crash about? Why is Elon Musk and Donald Trump man-made crashing it? It's a controlled crash so that they can They're going to put in a new currency, and just like we said, Elon Musk was used to save Ukraine from the Antichrist spirit of Putin. Putin that he would that we're going to have the same thing in Texas. Those are my exact words. I didn't know it was going to be Elon doing it. I mean, y'all heard me. You were on the show that night when I talked about it. All right, you remember? I was like going. I was just like going. I can't believe I'm saying this, man. And we said it outright and up front. And it's written in history, so nobody can mess with that. But a lot of people, believe it or not, people just like in Lubbock, they try to erase it. But how do you erase something that was proclaimed throughout the whole city once it happened? It was put in a newspaper. I put it in a newspaper before it happened. Said in 40 days it's going to happen. And a lady there who I never met, never seen, never talked to in my life ever, not even since then, had a dream that very night. Then I show up the next day. She'd been telling everybody at work. That's why the little Spanish girl said to me, "Sir, did this really happen to you?" Because I didn't know it, but that lady had told her that. She goes back there. She was freaked. That girl was freaked out, y'all. She was shaking and crying. And there's customers waiting to have their customers waiting to get their business done, and she's all back in the back, crying and snotting and telling it, "There's this guy up there. He's gonna." I don't know what she said exactly, but something like that. Because she was freaked out, and that literally happened. you know, that literally happened, and so it's kind of crazy, but it makes me not want to be lazy with the Lord. Okay, so this is what's happening, and this is where it's all going. So the main point I wanted to get you on tonight was I have a lot more to say about it, and I'll be saying a whole lot more about it before it's all over with. I have a lot more. I can't load you up too much, or you'll lose half of it. Excuse me when I drink my water. Um, so this is what's going on. The purpose of the controlled crash of a man-made. Now I understand what a man-made crash is for, because they have to control it. Because if they don't control it now, the smart thing that Donald Trump is doing is controlling it now so that it will not get out of control like 2008. Kind of, it's a natural crash, which they get out of control, and then we're spending all our time trying to save it. They're trying to save it beforehand. They're going in now early and doing the crash, finding all the waste. Doing it's an awesome thing that they're doing. I mean, I'm all for it, man. I mean, I don't understand it all, but I'm all for it, man. Whatever. We even said Elon Musk would be used. I didn't know it literally, but uh, yeah. So you guys know about all that, and I'm not going to repeat that 100 times because we get new people coming in all the time who don't have a clue what we're talking about. All right. So this is all documented in history, and yeah, and so it is going that they're going to have a currency that is going to be separate from the one world global currency, which is made to put us in bondage and to make us have a mark. Those two systems, friend, are about to manifest themselves because of what Trump is doing. Let me just tell you, there's so much I want to talk about. Let me just say some of this. If you have any questions, please ask. I don't care. No questions dumb. Okay, because I may not know the answer, but if you have a question, it doesn't have to be a good question. If it's your question, it's a good question. Okay. So, but here's a problem. Here's a problem with what Trump is doing. Trump is coming in saying everybody's going to bow to me, basically. Which is I'm glad he's saying that. I'm for him saying that. Everybody's going to not bow in worship, but bow in honor, because if they don't, I'll come after them. That's his message. So, what do you think Putin and them are doing? They're going like, "Oh no, not you, not Donald Trump. Oh no." You know what they're doing? They put on all the little acts and do all the little things. But let me tell you something. These people are world domination people. They're not going to be bowing to Trump in honor. It may be fake honor. He may think that they're honoring him. He probably will know anyway. But you think they're going to be bowing to him? He's raising his head, man, and I'm glad he's raising his head. Hallelujah! It's amazing. And Elon Musk with him make a great team. Uh, but you think that all these guys, Donald Vladimir Putin from Russia, he's already had his taste of Elon Musk. That who stopped him from winning Ukraine so quick? Elon Musk did that. Who's working with Trump again against, or really Putin is already like going, I don't like him because He messed up my war. I could have had that thing taken in a few weeks, and he stopped it, and we're still fighting because of Elon Musk. You understand what I'm saying? These guys, the 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 president of China, all these guys that are big dogs, you know, Iran, and not just Iran, but Turkey, and all these countries with these leaders. Do you think they're going to be going, "Oh, please save us, would you, Donald Trump? We love you, man." Now they're going like, you know what you can do with that stuff? You can stuff it. We're going to have our own system. You and Musk do nothing but mess up everything. That's what they're going to be saying it. So what do you think they're going to do? Say, "Oh, can we be a part of what you're doing? Are you kidding me?" That's the biggest joke. So that's going to create a separation out of the systems. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to have one over here. The Texas thing we prophesied about for what, 3, 4, 5 years now, something like that. And so that system, which Musk lives in Texas now, which is amazing. And then we're going to have Putin and China and all of them, that Turkey and all those guys and all of the Muslims and all those, people, they're going to have their own system, y'all, just like we're going to have our own system. So you're going to have a battle. It's going to be the end times like you haven't ever seen in your life. Okay, so we have somebody saying, according to Brandon Biggs, he saw in a vision that the big banks would suddenly close and keep everyone's money, but then cancel mortgages or vehicle payments. That's interesting. Okay, we can put that up there. Say that I don't know. I don't really know Brandon Biggs that much, but I've always kind of liked him, except for the times that one of my friends tried to. Hey, I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say that. Anyway, so this is really cool. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that that's true. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But so it could be part of the process. It very well could be a vision that the big banks would suddenly close and keep everyone's money, but then cancel mortgages. In other words, they're going to give people their houses. Hey, if you guys got a mortgage going on, you can have it canceled. So they're not going to have to pay their mortgage. They're going to own their house and their vehicles. So the vehicle's going to pay. So I'm going to buy me a new vehicle, right? And buy me a house. Anyway, so I don't know about all that. I'm just repeating what uh, Prophetic Watchman TV is saying. I am not saying that. I think that sounds interesting. I mean, I don't know. I've never thought about it. But so he may have some specifics on that. Very awesome. Thank you for that. With no money in the bank. Oh, with no money in the bank. So in other words, you get your mortgage paid, and your vehicle payments are canceled. You own your car and your house, but you don't have any money in the bank. Is that right? Can you, I haven't kept up with Brandon Biggs. Obviously, my friend here at Watchman Prophetic Watchman TV does, so he can keep us up on that if he wants. Interesting. Okay, so this is what's going on, y'all. So uh, when I realized, I got to back up here for a second. When I realized, okay, here it goes. Banks pool all the money from the people. What does that mean, man? Sorry, you're talking to an ignorant person. What do you mean pool? They're gonna be swimming in money? No, I know that's not what that means. But banks pool all the money. Say that in English for some of us ordinary people, please. Where somebody can go, oh, I know what that means. Instead of just you're just way too smart for your own britches. So say it in common day language, so some of us more simple people can get it, my brother. All right, thank you for helping me with that. Okay, they keep it. Oh, they keep it. Oh, well, that's more plain. Because I thought they're going to go swimming in it. In their bank pools. Yeah, no, not really. Okay, so they're going to keep the money, and your house and your mortgage. What if you don't have a house and a mortgage? You're not going to. Ooh, if your vehicle, yeah, the deposits of the people are in the trillions. So you're saying that the one world system is going to do that. What about Trump? What about Trump and Elon? Where's Trump and Elon at in all this stuff? In Biggs prophecy, is he talking about that? Do you know? The banks basically steal the money from the people. Okay. All right. So I'm going to be really careful until I have a direct word from God about some of this. But let me just tell you something on this as they're bringing this up. This is really cool information. I don't know that I agree with all of it or not, though it sounds right, right? It sounds like something they would do, right? So I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying I can't say that I agree with it prophetically until I know. But that sounds like something that they would do, right? Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. But the new system will come out of the crash where they keep our money and start a new digital system. That's a question, not a statement. Oh, oh, that's a question. The banks basically steal the money from the people. Sorry. Thank you for. Thanks, James, for letting me know. That was a question. Sorry about that. I thought you were making sense. Okay, so you're saying James is asking the question. The banks basically steal the money from the people, and he says the system will come out of the crash where they keep our money and start a new digital system. So the digital system, how do we get so your money that you lose when they start the digital system is made of the people's money? So they're not gonna be able to trade their cash in for digital money, basically, I guess. Okay, we're just talking about this stuff tonight. I'm not saying I agree with any of that. It may be all true. I really don't know, but thank you for sharing it. Here's the thing that I do know. I do know that, uh, and I'm not saying, one thing I want to make sure that I'm not saying that they're going to be doing that for us, Elon Musk and Trump. I think that they will. It seems like they would. That seems like what they would be doing. Okay, that's unknown how the people get back to normal. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot of questions out there, and I thank you for commenting. And if you say something, unless it's really nasty bad, I will, let people know you're saying it. Plus, if you're on YouTube, I guess if you're on YouTube, you can see all that stuff, right? Okay, James goes interesting. Okay, that's unknown how the people. Prophetic Watchman TV says that's unknown of how the people get back to normal, and that answer comes from. I'm asking him. You get to keep your house and your car, but you have no money. You have no cash. So I'm asking. So how are the people going to have cash? And he says that's unknown. Well, they're probably going to have to sign their life away, maybe to get their cash back. The thing I've thought about is that once they take your money, see, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. We're gonna have two different systems going on here, right? We've talked about this for a long time. We're not gonna have one system. They think they're gonna take over. If Musk and Trump are gonna work together for America, if they are, if they're going to, if they're working for America and working for God, um, then what's going to happen is they will Elon Musk, like he saved Ukraine from the Antichrist. I called him the Antichrist. He's not the Antichrist, but I said an Antichrist figure like Putin. Elon Musk saved Ukraine from that takeover, right? Which he did. That's pretty well documented in history so far. Uh, that Elon Musk would be doing the same thing for us. I don't know. So my thinking is that the proper way to do it would be to have the people's money in the bank, turn that money into a digital system, and then they have record of the people's money, and then they give their money back to them in data money. And data money, is that the right way to say that? In the digital money, they have digital money. That would be the honest way to do it. Is to they they take their cash and have a record of who owns what. They make digital money and then make them sign their life away for it. That's what the Antichrist spirit will do. But okay, so we're getting all messed up here. Um, okay, I don't know what I already have a lot of. I know who it is. I know it's Glenn. Glenn from Prophetic Watchman TV. Our friend Glenn. All right. Grable says, I don't know, but we already have a lot of cryptocurrency out there for Trump to use. James says that. Then Prophetic Glenn says, Trump can only do what he is, but then transition America to a new digital system to get us closer to the mark of the beast, cashless society. That's what I think. That's one thing I was going to bring up. Thank you for saying that. To me, what Elon Musk and Trump are going to do is bring us closer to people that we trust. Now you got to watch this. People that we trust, or that most people trust, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Most people trust Donald Trump because they trust Donald. They're trusting Elon to a certain degree. And because they're trusting them, they're going to build a digital currency of some kind of currency besides the dollar. And when they do that, um, then the Antichrist system will come in and say it is going to be easy for the Antichrist system, or the one world, the mark of the beast system, to set it up. That's exactly what I see. In fact, that's what's happening. They're actually setting it up in a way that, like an not an experiment, but putting it into action. And then the Antichrist, the mark of the beast people are going to have their own thing where we're going to have two different systems. And there's so much more to this than I'm getting into right now. But I'm trying to keep it simple as possible so I don't blow everybody's mind. But the year and a half thing was, if you count back from October the 13th and count forward a year and a half, that's today, or the 13th. Actually, to be the exact day would be the 13th, which would be Sunday. That's exactly a year and a half. Around a year and a half is right now, or when they began the cracks begin to show. The man-made crash that we talked about for 2 or 3 years began to show Wednesday. Man-made crash began to show Wednesday. And what did the markets do? Start crashing. Start crashing. So it's a man-made controlled crash. It's not really a freak out time as much as it is a shaking, like the earthquake that shook Lubbock, Texas. It was a sign. It was not a destructive mode. It was a sign. The shaking was a sign. Okay? The shaking was a sign. The thing that just happened Wednesday with the markets shaking, it's a sign. It's not necessarily destruction. Like I told the people in Lubbock, I said, this is not a destruction. This is not destruction. This is not Lubbock is not going to be destroyed. It is a sign to get right with God. And that's what this is. A year and a half later, it's like the earthquake shook a year and a half later, about a year and a half later, in Lubbock, Texas, my Nineveh. The same thing's happening here. A year and a half from the date I got, that I've told you guys many times, October 13th, 2023. I gave you that date many, many times. You count a year and a half, and that is today, or this week, the 7 days, because I said it's almost a year and a half, about a year and a half. Okay, are y'all getting this? Y'all aren't talking back much, so I don't know if anybody's getting it or not. It's kind of hard. It's a lot to receive, right? It's a major thing. Uh, no, the Antichrist money will not be backed by the dollar. I'm not. If you thought I was saying that, no, I'm not saying that at all. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't think the Antichrist money will be backed by the dollar. No, it's going to be completely the Antichrist money. The mark money is not going to have anything to do with the dollar. Absolutely. But the system that Trump and them are using, I don't know. See, they're going to try to keep from shocking people too bad to where they're still going to work a little bit of cash. Thank you, James. You're still going to have a little bit of cash here and there. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. I don't have a detailed thing. All I'm telling you is overall, what's happening is that they're working it to where Trump and Elon are going to work into a digital system, and they may still use the dollar. No, the dollar's not going to back anything. The dollar is not going to back anything. That's why they're getting away from it, because it's not going to back anything. Gold and silver basically are supposed to back, right? So that's the reason we're in trouble in the first place. Crypto will being uh, Glenn is saying, thank you, Glenn, for that. He says crypto will be involved because they will use it to upgrade the SWIFT money transfers. Nobody's going to understand that, but I'll tell you anyway. They're going to the SWIFT money transfer system. It's slow today. 3 days minimum. Using XRP will take 3 seconds. Okay, so you're saying it's going to speed up. All right, James says, I don't think the Antichrist money will be backed by the dollar. If you thought I was saying that, I didn't mean to say that. I think it will be backed by the China. Okay, he thinks it will be backed by the China renminbi. I don't even know what that is. That's what their currency is, or it's like a coin or something? What I don't even know what China renminbi is. Sorry, I don't know. James says, yes, we're getting it. Nicole Gibbs says, thank you, Nicole. I think I'm catching on a little more. I see the year and a half years now. Okay, I see the year and a half, one and a half years now. Okay, so it's a lot to sink in, y'all. And I'm trying to stay away from too much information, because we could really get into this deep. And we have some people that are really into it that are with us tonight, and we thank them for that. I want to inform you, however, I don't want to overwhelm you. China's uses the yuan. Okay, okay, James. He's saying that they use the yuan. It's their currency. The renminbi is the China currency. I've never even heard of the renminbi. Okay, that's China's currency. You sure? Because somebody else is saying they use the yuan. Their currency. Yes, their currency. Okay, China's currency is the renminbi. I was not aware of that. See, that shows you that. Okay, very interesting. Their currency, yes. Okay, so he's saying their currency, yes. So you are getting agreement on that. Okay, thank you. I've never even heard of that one, y'all. Honestly, uh, so thank you for that. I don't want to give too much information out tonight. The yuan. Oh, the yuan. Okay, what is it? The yuan's the currency, or the min? Y'all getting me messed up here. Their currency is China's currency is the yuan. Somebody's not getting it right. You might want to do a little research on that real quick for me, if you don't mind, because I don't want to get distracted. I'm trying to keep up with what I'm saying tonight. I'm trying to get a message out tonight, very clear, that one thing we're going to see. We warned you about a man-made crash, not a regular crash. So what's happened? That has now happened, or happening. Started happening. The market's been crashing already, thousands of points. All right, uh, that's pretty amazing. All right, so we gave you that word about that. That is happening right now. Donald Trump is crashing it on purpose, and he knows that when he did that with the tariffs, that was going to happen. He's not a dummy. He knows exactly what he's doing, and it's a good idea. I think it's a good thing. He's trying to clean up him and Elon Musk are trying to clean it up together. And as far as I know, I don't really have a word about it. I think they're probably doing a fine job. I think they're very sincere about trying to fix it. However, I don't know where it's all going to end up yet. That's what I'm keeping to myself right now. I don't know where all that's going to end up. So we'll have to pray about that and see. But right now, I think they're doing a great thing. I think they're really doing a great thing. But I don't know from the Lord. Okay, so all right. Now let me tell you another year and a half scenario. I gave you guys a year and a half scenario because Nicole's saying, I think I'm catching on a little more. I see the year and a half, the 1.5 years now. Because the 1.5 years that I'm talking about has to do with my Nineveh, where a year and a half later, after I said it's going to happen in 40 days, it didn't happen. People prayed. That was a documented fact. Church after church after church put it in their bulletin. They all met up there. I got ticked off. I'm thinking, what are they doing? Praying away my earthquake. I wasn't saying it's going to destroy. Oh, we don't want it to destroy the America or Lubbock. I didn't say it was going to destroy anything. I never said it was going to destroy anything. It was a sign. That's all it was. And so that's why I got a little ticked off at praying it away. Like, man, you can make me look like a false prophet. And sure enough, that's what they did. But a year and a half later, it all got totally changed. It all happened. It all manifested itself, and the earthquake actually happened. And so then since one had never happened before in Lubbock, Texas, that was a pretty well. If anybody had any sense about them, that was a pretty well done deal. That word was right on from God, and it was very much a Jonah word because I put 40 days in there. Try that on for size sometime. I feel like something's gonna happen in 40 days. Yeah, and you got to be specific about what it is. Try that on for size. It was a lot of pressure. It was amazing. I learned a lot through it. I grew a lot through it, and so I know how God was preparing me for my Ninevehs today, of obvious things that when you say, Nineveh's going down, Trump's going down, never get back up again. That was the same thing Jonah was telling Nineveh. Same thing, exactly. It will be overthrown. Period. Also known as the okay. So the wand. So James looked it up. Thank you, James. James looked that up, and the renminbi is the Chinese. It's the people's currency, and he's just saying it's another name for the Chinese yuan, also known as the Chinese yuan. Well, that's a new one. I guess Glenn didn't know that either. I guess I'm not sure, but awesome. That is very interesting. Okay, y'all, I'm learning, man. That's cool. Thank you, James, for looking that up and clearing that up. I was getting confused, uh, but you both had it right. So great job on that. That's really awesome. Okay, so any other questions? Anybody else have anything that I'm not made clear yet? I'm not declaring doom and gloom. I'm actually saying that the currency situation, that the sign of it is a year and a half into my word, when the currency change would begin to happen, October the 13th, or the crash. The crash is not the falling apart of the economy. The crash is the changing of our American dollar into a new currency. That's really the interpretation of a crash, called a man-made crash. It's now just not a regular crash. It is a changing over, because we're going to have to. Trump is doing it a man-made crash because he's trying to save it from having a natural crash, which would be devastating, extremely devastating. And the one world system will take advantage of that. I guarantee it. So what's Trump doing? God's using him right now to, uh, a controlled, now I understand man-made crash, a controlled crash, so that him and Musk can, uh, and I think they're gonna end up saying something like, well, we can't use the dollar anymore because the system won't work like that. We're gonna have to change it to some kind of a new currency, whatever that the currency is. I don't know, but that's kind of what's happening, and that is going to happen a year and a half. I gave you words last week that change is going to happen a year and a half from the time Trump became president, which is another Nineveh that I have. I have two Ninevehs. I have a Nineveh in a sense of October the 13th, because nothing really happened on that day. And all that happened really before that was Israel, uh, went into war. That's still going on, by the way. 545 days of war with, major operation prophetically, in my opinion. And so that all began to be a signal that the word on October 13th was correct. And then eventually, a year and a half later, it manifested itself through Donald Trump. And the words that we gave, I don't know if it would be Donald doing it, but a man made crash. And now we know that Donald Trump is doing that exact thing. To my surprise, that was him. I didn't understand all that when I got it, but I just said it. Okay, that is happening. So the Lord is speaking to us. One thing I try to do here tonight is let people know that the global thing that's going on, that God has been speaking to us about it in pretty much specifics. Oh, my batteries. All right, y'all give me a minute. I have a camera issue. Camera. My camera. Okay. Okay. Y'all give me a second here. I've got a camera issue. A little minor thing going on. Okay, there we go. Now it's coming back on. Okay, y'all give me just a minute. I'll be right back. If you have any questions, please get those questions in here. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, I will try to repeat it in a short version if I can. Okay, I will try to repeat it in a short version, a shorter version, because I want people to get this. What good does it do to talk about it if people aren't going to, understand it? I understand it because I get it, but not everybody gets it as far as gets the information. All right, so I'll be right back. Let's play. We're going to play some music.
When you have Jesus, blood running through your veins, you never, never are the same. His DNA is making you new, making a whole new you. New, because the old you is passed away. The new you is singing this song. Belongs to God, recreated in His likeness by His Spirit and blood that is through your veins. With Jesus' blood, you know never the same. No, never the same. When you have Jesus' blood running through your veins, you never, never are the same. His DNA is making you new, making a whole new you. New because the old you has passed away. The new you is singing this song. New belongs to God, recreated in His likeness by Spirit and blood that runs through your veins. With Jesus' blood, you know never the same. No, never the same. When you have Jesus, blood running through your veins, you never, never are the same. His DNA is making you new, making a whole new you. New, because the old you has passed away. The new you is singing this song. New belongs to God, recreated in His likeness by His Spirit and blood that runs through your veins. With Jesus' blood, you'll know never the same. I'm never the same. I'm never the same.
All right, everyone, we are back. Okay, be right back. Okay, we are back, I think, and so if anybody has any questions, just please let me know about that. You can text me at 214-505-8719. And I just hope I've made it really clear what I am saying and people are getting it so you can walk away going like, I think I got that. All right. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, we got the yuan and the uh, renminbi, renminbi. Figured out it's all the same thing. Okay, that was a new one. Good, 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 very good. Okay, so we got that going on, and okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So if anybody wants to talk tonight or ask questions about anything or talk about whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about that also. So get that hand up there and let's see what we can come up with. All right. Anybody, any of you guys, any uh, James, got anything you want to say, or also uh, Glenn, if you got anything you want to say or add to, maybe some stuff that I've maybe left out. We're only talking about the purpose of the crash, that it is man-made, that we prophesied about, so people can relax. It is being crashed because it's by man, a man-made crash because it's in a controlled crash. As long as it stays like that, we'll be fine. But but it tells you where we're going. It is it is the sign. It is the sign that we're heading to that, really close to that. And mainly because a year and a half from the time I said the currency situation would be changed, start changing, October the 13th, 2023. And then exactly a year and a half, like my prophecy of the earthquake thing happened a year and a half, about a year and a half. It's if you go October the 13th, 2023, and count a year and a half ahead, that's like right now. So I don't know if it's considered a Nineveh or not, but it is more of, because I didn't see any evidence of a natural crash at the time, because I was looking for a natural crash. And that's why the Lord said, get that currency thing done, get the gold and silver bullion thing done before October the 13th. And so that's why I did it before October the 13th. I get it October the 4th is when I got it done. Thank God. It was, to me, a miracle that it got finished and paid for and done, and all that. So um, so now they're going to, you know uh, the next phase will be, and I think that's going to happen in May or June. We will see the shakings of that, and that year and a half. That's a year and a half from the time Trump, the Nineveh situation I had with Trump, right, uh, where God changed his mind, and people had a miraculous event about that very situation. And now we have Trump in there with Elon Musk, who we've talked about, helped save Ukraine. Now he's in Texas with a satellite system that will help us do our transactions. That the one world market system, the one world mark of the beast system, will try to stop, like they tried to stop Elon Musk from with Ukraine against Putin. Putin literally tried to stop him. It was written in the news. I never forget it. And Musk had to upgrade his system a little bit and kind of did a little fighting on some of their Russia's hitman hitting them on the data situation. Very interesting how all that happened. And now we've got Elon Musk over here. Uh, how do I talk on the phone? You can talk on the phone, yeah. Yeah, you can talk on the phone. Okay, let's see here. Okay, the phone information. Okay, if you want to talk tonight, get your hand up there. Okay, there's Glenn. Okay, let's get Glenn on there. All right, man. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. You're on.
Okay. You want to talk with?
Yeah, you, you got some things you want to say about what we talked about tonight?
Uh, yeah, I know you're not a big fan when I mention other people's prophetic words, but being a prophetic watchman, I kind of absorb what I feel is out there, and I just kind of bring everything into the hard drive, and I kind of hold it, and then I pray about it, and then sometimes I'll discuss it and other things. So I know, if people don't know who Brandon Biggs is, he was the only one that I'm aware of that predicted that Trump was going to get shot in the ear before it actually happened.
Right.
He was being interviewed by another pastor and a woman named Amanda Grace. People may be familiar with her. And he had just come right out and basically described exactly how it happened. So when you have somebody, that gave that specific word, you got to give them at least the space that they're going to have other things to say. Now, unfortunately, the prophetic realm is pretty messy. There's a ministry that just pumps out prophetic words like it's gas going into the fuel tank, and the unfulfilled list is a mile long and getting longer every day. And so it's just disappointing that that happens, but basically just trying to keep it light. And everybody is interested in the economy naturally. So the whole thing is what is God telling us through the prophets, through you, through anyone else that God speaks to? And so I was just going to add a few things that may not fit with your ideas of what you were kind of saying where we were going. Brandon, like you sent out the text earlier today, and then you're in a mode to just kind of rehash all of this stuff. And it seems like everybody had the same idea because Brandon did a video earlier today. It's only 20 minutes long. I actually put it up on the YouTube screen for the link, and I watched most of it. And he goes over the same thing you were basically going over, except that what he was shown by God slightly different. I'm not saying that it's one against another or whatever, but what he said, he didn't really get into the man-made crash, so that's kind of your thing. But basically, he said that in early 2025 we would see a crash. And so, you know, if you split up the year, you know, into, let's say you go the 4 quarters, you know, that the first 3 months would be considered early, you know, so on. So I don't know how people would you know, consider it early, but you know, Trump basically waited till April 2nd. That was his target day. So I mean, April 2nd, it's only 2 days after the end of the first quarter of the year, and then all of a sudden we see the markets go down 2,000 points and whatever. It looked like it started going way down today, and it didn't tank too bad. But the bottom line that I'm just going to throw out at you is that Brandon said that there's going to be global economic shaking. So that's something added to his outline. But he's saying in this video that China is gonna give us a hard time with these tariffs, and that he says that the trade war is going to cause an issue to where we're going to run out of food and the shelves are empty. And he says he saw cobwebs in the corner of these shelves. And so I know that this is more gloom and doom to a lot of people the way I'm speaking. I'm trying to make it as pleasant as possible. It's just a matter of the differences between the different prophetic words. Uh, the thing about the banks holding the money, I mean, that comes from Brandon, of course, and I said that. And so the other issue is that, you know, things aren't just going to be, you know, controlled and manipulated and then just, you know, restarted with a reset button. According to Brandon, the economy is much worse than what people think. And so Trump's going to try to do what he's going to do. But according to Brandon, it's not going to be enough to fully reboot the system without any aches and pains, so to speak. So we're supposedly going to have a time where there's people lined up, but they're wearing good clothes, so it's not like they're dirty clothes, but they're trying to get their hands on some food supplies, whatever. And I mean, it's kind of, you know, the crux of what I was going to add to what he had said. So basically, the outline of the economics recovering. He originally said that he saw 4 oak trees in the same vision, and he didn't know if that meant 4 weeks, 4 months, or 4 years. And so we'll have to wait and see, you know, how this all works out. But the other thing was the cryptocurrency was supposed to aid the money transfer system. SWIFT is an abbreviation. I don't know what the first 2 letters are, but you know, people think that when you swipe a debit card and you buy something that you paid for it and it's a done deal. But a lot of times, if you look on like an online bank statement, it'll still say pending. And so basically, that only begins the payment of whatever you're buying. And so they still literally have to transfer the actual money from bank to bank to suffice the purchase. And so, like I said, it's minimum 3 weekdays and sometimes even longer. So they already know by adding the cryptocurrency, there's a couple of them. XRP is the main one that's been mentioned. And so anyhow, you know, to transition the system to digital, which Brandon says he saw a flag waving, and then it was only worth 50 cents out of the dollar. And then there was digital code on the flag, and then eventually we got into a digital system. So that's kind of where the digital, the crypto, and how everything's going to transition. Exactly, you know, how many transitions we need to get close to the mark of the beast. It's got to be a cashless society, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't buy or sell without the mark. That means you need that mark in order to buy anything. So you can't have so many dollars stuffed in the mattress, you know, thinking you're going to get away with buying something, you know, from the setup system.
Right. Well, you know, I've always thought that. I always thought that everybody knew that, but I don't know. I didn't hear it from the Lord or anything specifically, but that's what makes sense. Yeah, a cashless society. So eventually going to do away with cash. I've told you before they're going to do away with cash. You said, well, maybe not completely. So I don't know where you're at on that now. Maybe that you didn't mean that exactly, but yeah, I think so. I think they're going to be cashless. I think that the I think what I'm trying to point to today and try to make sure that we walk away with understanding, and then we can add Brandon's stuff in there too. I mean, I'm just saying I only know what God tells me, and that's why I document everything with my name on it, so that people know I said that, and Brandon said that, and somebody else said the other. So we know we can separate it out and see if it all does fit together. So my point is that we gave the word about a man-made crash. I did not even understand what that meant, but I knew that the end result of that man-made crash was going to be a digital currency or some kind of a currency where it's cashless. And so to me, what's happening is you're going to have two different systems set up. You're going to have if Trump and Elon Musk, if they are working toward America and the Texas thing and the Texas word that I gave that God showed me, if they're working toward that, then that will be one system, which I'm hoping that's what that will be, what they're doing right now. The other system is going to be from the haters of Trump or the haters of, you know, the, the mark of the beast people. They're going to have their own system too. So I think we're going to have two different systems. And I gave a word, as you might remember years ago, that when Elon Musk, I kept telling people we're going to have our own satellite system, and I didn't have any example of that. I just kind of like couldn't even think of a way we have our own satellite system because once they take over the satellite systems, the one world globe, what do we have? No satellites, right? Because they're going to own all the satellites. So I didn't know, but I told people we're going to have our own satellites. We have to have our own satellite system in order to have to communicate and to do transactions from the stores to buying groceries in Texas and the other states, a few other states that are going to be in there. So we're going to have some kind of a satellite system to do that with. And so I used the example of Elon Musk with Ukraine many, many times and said it's going to be like that. We're going to have, I don't know if it's going to be Elon, I don't know who it's going to be, but we're going to have our own satellite system and it's going to save America from being taken over and blah, blah, blah. We're going to be able to do transactions because we'll have, so it could be very well that since Elon Musk does live in Texas now, in Austin, he's been there for a while now, that he may be the answer to that. I'm not guaranteeing that because I don't know, but it makes sense. And plus the fact that we use him as an example for using satellite systems to save people from people like Putin, who kind of come in and dominate you like the Antichrist. So that very well could be the exact thing that happens. I'll be really interested to find out if that's really God. I think it is, but I don't know for sure. But then the Antichrist people are going to have their own system too. So that's what I see happening now. Now we're actually seeing the word come to pass a year and a half from the time that I gave the word about October the 13th, being the beginning of the transition into a whole other system, where our system will never be the same after that. Now, there was no sign of that happening around October the 13th, so I was a little bit confused. And then that's when the Lord said, back in November, about a month later, because I'm confused over this, right? I'm going like, you said October the 13th was going to be, so the war had started with Israel, and there was a lot of things going on, but there was no obvious currency thing happening, right? I didn't see anything. There was no crash information, so I was a little bit confused about that. So I said, God, what's going on? And he said, Randy, it's a man-made crash. Have you ever seen a man-made crash? I went, I've never seen a man-made crash. He said, then how are you going to know whether it's on or not? You see what I'm saying? In other words, he was trying to explain to me that just because I didn't see a man-made crash, just because I didn't see a crash coming, it's because I didn't understand what a man-made crash was. And the man-made crash began really with the war of Israel, and the war of Israel and Hamas just kind of got going and that was a signal that 6 days later, October 13th was 6 days later. That was a signal that the man-made currency, the currency from the crash was going to be man-made, not like I was thinking. I didn't even know it was not going to be I didn't know it was going to be a man-made crash until after it didn't happen. Then I'm kind of going like, okay, it's been a few weeks now. They had plenty of time to have some kind of manifestation of a crash. I don't see any. He said, Randy, I keep trying to tell you. He tried to tell me for months, it's a man-made crash. I'm going like, what's a man-made crash? He said, exactly. If you don't know what it looks like, how do you know it hasn't happened yet? I'm going like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know. And so I started giving the word. It's going to be a man-made crash, a man-made crash, a man-made crash. And I still didn't even understand what that was. So now, a year and a half, almost to the, just like my earthquake thing, it happened a year and a half later. A year and a half later, dude, this blew my mind. I woke up this morning, or this morning or yesterday morning, with, oh my God, a year and a half from October the 13th, 2023 is right now. And that's when this thing happened with Trump. When the cracks began, when the shaking began, just like it did in Lubbock a year and a half later, a shaking began just about almost exactly a year and a half, which is exactly the same timing. So I'm going like, I woke up freaked out. I freaked out. Let me tell you what I did, y'all. I freaked out. I went to the grocery store at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't even get up till 9. I don't even get out of bed till 9 and start drinking coffee, maybe 9:30, because I work. I stay up late, right? I work late. I'm up. I'm at the store. I don't have the receipts with the exact date on it, but I'm at the store buying groceries. I bought $350 worth of groceries out of my measly little thing that I get from retirement. and I'm going because that's how freaked out I was. And so I said, I'm going to put out these texts. I said, Monday night, I'm going to talk about this tonight. Because, dude, I was freaking out because it hit me so hard that it was exactly as my earthquake thing was a year and a half later. The shaking began when the shaking began in the market almost exactly the same time. Exactly. So I'm just kind of like going, oh my God, it's a year and a half as of this week, around a year and a half. The 13th of this, which is Sunday, will be exactly a year and a half. And I always said when I gave that word about that it happened about a year and a half. So when I woke up with that thought process going through my head, I flipped out. Oh my God. Oh my God. I settled down. I did settle down. And that's when I sent out the notes to everybody. So to what I'm trying to say tonight, y'all, and letting you know what happened to me. I mean, I freaked out. Not freaked out like panic, but I was like going, oh my God, I got to go get some food, man. This thing's fixing to hit. And so I went and bought a bunch of groceries. I bought a bunch of chickens and froze them, and so enough to last me a few weeks. That's how it hit me. It hit me that hard. And so as I began to think during the day, I kind of sobered up a little bit from my drinking that information at 5:30 in the morning. No, I didn't drink it. I didn't drink that information. I say drink it because I didn't partake of that information. I partook of that information. I got up and looked at the clock, and it was 6:43. I couldn't believe it. It was 6:43 in the morning. You know what 6 and 4 and 3 is? It's 13. And I said, this is getting crazier by the minute. I'm going to try to go back to sleep, man. I went back to sleep for about an hour, and then I woke up thinking, I got to get up. I got to get up. I can't sleep anymore. I'm going to get up. And I went to the store and bought groceries like I've never done that before. So now I realize, of course, that it was just a sign. The shaking that happened about a year and a half, almost to the week at least, of my October 13th date of when it would all begin, except not a regular crash, but a man-made crash. So does that make sense? So it kind of woke me up, and I'm trying to say this stuff tonight because it's fresh, because I wanted to get it out and just tell everybody what I went through, how I never even thought about a year and a half. And then we have another year and a half element, which began when the Nineveh thing happened with Trump. I call it another Nineveh moment, where Trump, won the presidency, and then a year and a half later from that is next May, about May the 5th, somewhere in there, is when we're going to see the manifestation. But they may have it together by that time. And on May the 5th of next year, which is a year and a half, whatever a year and a half is from November the 5th, so somewhere, it may be January, because he actually wasn't in there till January the 5th. I haven't really gotten all that together yet, but somewhere around May, June, July, somewhere in there, I think is when I don't know exactly what we're going to see, but we're going to see next in 2026, May, June, July, we're going to see a definite shaking of something happening where either Musk and Trump came up with the digital system they're going to do and put it into action. Yeah, dude, swallow that and see what that does for you. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the other issue is that you know it's kind of difficult to. First, you think yourself as a member of humanity or a member, of the body of Christ. But when you talk about, okay, we're Americans. Well, my heritage comes from Germany, so what does that say? That basically I'm an American, but yet I'm, from the area of Germany so many generations ago, and basically I'm just a part of a bunch of people that came over here and set up shop. So the issue is that we got a bunch of people, basically, I guess we could say that they're probably liberal minded, that they're marching and protesting against Elon. I mean, you're seeing his vehicles are being burned, the key jobs go. All these people are getting caught on the cameras that the vehicles have, cameras on them, and video record everything. All these people are getting arrested for key jobbing Tesla vehicles lately.
Right.
But anyway, the whole thing is these people are protesting that Trump and Elon are doing something they deem is not right. And yet, wouldn't you want someone to basically uncover that your money is being stolen or sent somewhere you don't want to send? I mean, that's insanity.
Yeah.
To believe that these people have a problem with that. So that just tells you the divide of the people of the country at the moment. They've just been programmed to believe certain things, and it's just like, wow, how do you even go there? But the thing that came up, naturally, there's many prophetic words that I have in mind that I monitor, and one of them came up. So is Elon, a good guy or what?
Yeah.
And so they've had many interviews with Elon. You can see a bunch of them. I guess Joe Rogan has them on several times, and he does, videos, interviews everywhere. So they've asked him several times, does he believe in God? And he gets close to saying it once, but he doesn't actually say it. So the consensus on all the videos and all the interviews that Elon isn't quite a believer. Okay, so that's step one that they'll throw out at you. The other thing is, when Elon had just got going with his company and SpaceX was just getting going, he had a lot of failures of rockets blowing up to the point he was almost out. He was almost bankrupt. And so the last launch, worked, and, it was successful. And then he got a fairly large grant from the U.S. government to continue. And now here we are where he just saved those two astronauts up in the space station. So the thing is right at that time that he was on the fence, he was observed at a Halloween party for one of the girl that's on the show where they sing a lot, and then she's a judge, Heidi Klum. So she's holding a Halloween party. And for some people, this may be nothing, but if you look on the internet, Elon Musk, Heidi Klum Halloween party, he is wearing a leather samurai protective suit as part of his costume. But on the back, up by the shoulder area, is an upside down cross. And so the question is it just good old fun to wear a Halloween costume and it has an upside down cross, which is not good as far as showing people you're, someone of the faith? You and I would never wear that suit.
Yeah.
But he did. So the whole thing is, that's that. Now, another prophetic word, this is where it gets a little bit X-22 between what you were just saying. Elon Musk has a lot going on. He created a company called Neuralink, who they put a chip on people's brains to sidetrack their spinal injuries so that they can walk again. Now, on the surface, that is awesome. Okay? So basically, some technology that they mount on the head, somewhere on the head, and these people can, get around to walking again with spinal cord injuries. But the prophetic word that was mentioned is that when it comes to the mark of the beast, it tells us exactly, where it is. Now, when you look at some versions, it says on the right head or on the forehead, and other versions will say in. So basically, depending on which one you look at, you get either in or on. Now, anything that's on the surface of the skin, you can skew it just by flexing the skin. So if it was a barcode, you could flex your skin and it wouldn't read proper. So that blows out basically the idea, at least in my case, that it's on. Now, there's been, people doing videos, and there was a company that actually went through all of this. I think it was like in Norway or something, but they literally chipped their employees just like they do where we do our pets here today. They inject a chip kind of in their shoulder blade, but it's injected with a needle. It's like the size of a grain of rice. And so basically, if a pet gets lost, they can take it to a vet. They can scan it with a machine. It gives them a serial number, and they go into the database, and they can find out, who is the registered owner of this pet. Now, if they don't have a chip, well, then someone gets a free pet if they want it. But if not, they can get it returned. So when you look at the technology, and the prophetic says it like this: the chip in the head. Now we know it's in the right hand or in the forehead. So in the forehead is sort of similar to the Neuralink thing. I don't think it's in the forehead. I think it's more on the back of the head. But the prophetic word says that part of the fulfillment of the mark of the beast is going to come from not Elon's company Neuralink, but another one just like it. And it's going to be that, and it's going to be paired with the Starlink internet system. Now, that's the system you're talking about would be ours. But according to the prophetic word, the tracking of every individual with whatever technology they're going to put in your body is going to be tracked with the Starlink satellite system. And what other system has the capability of covering the whole Earth? He's working on covering the whole Earth right now.
Right.
So you look at it as that it could be used for us, but according to the prophetic word, the Starlink will eventually, now whether or not it's taken over or all the details on that, I can't say. And then also there was one other little thing mentioned with it, that they would use drones in cooperation with this chip in the body and the satellite system. That would be the ultimate mark of the beast, is how it was discussed as of within the last year.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
kind of where I was going to throw that out.
Yeah, that's good. I did not say that it is going to be our system. I said it's, I said if that's our system, if it is. So I'm going to make that really clear. And people I don't know if you misquoted me or not, but I don't think you did. But I'm saying that, I don't know. I'm just saying that I don't know if I don't know about Elon Musk. One of the words that I gave 3 weeks before the election, which kind of shocked people, 3 weeks before the election, right? I've been saying Trump, no, Trump, no. You came on the show and said a couple times, you think we might have the earthquake thing? It could be a Nineveh. I'm going like, well, it's possible. And then I changed my mind. And the star thing that flew over and 7 Nineveh cities. And we kind of went, well, that could be a Nineveh right there. And I went, yeah, it could be.
The eclipses.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the eclipses, yes. I got it stuck in my mind as a star. So I just, star flying over. Anyway, so we kind of went back and forth with, can there be as you were on the show when I did that, and on the earthquake thing, that really almost had me convinced that we had a Nineveh just from that, because that was my Nineveh, right? My first Nineveh. And so, and then I said, no, that's not what it is. A real Nineveh is going to have to be something to where, the those stars, that star flying through. That's what I'm going to keep my story like the star. Okay, the star flying through and hitting buildings on every 7 cities. That would have been a Nineveh, a real Nineveh. Although a Nineveh with 7 cities flying over is pretty awesome within itself. I said Nineveh's got to be really. A Nineveh has to, in order to be a Nineveh, a true biblical Nineveh, it has to be something really major, like a king who's a heathen king. Uh, you know, repents and gets right before God, and all of his people get right before God. There's going to have to be something really, really big to be a Nineveh. And if you remember me saying that, I said that many times. And so I said, nah, that's not really a Nineveh, but it's really cool, though. I like it. But a Nineveh would be like what happened with Trump. Trump, to the shock of many people, won all the states that he wasn't supposed to win by a lot. He just won everything, just about. I mean, he won so much that it was unbelievable. And I said, that's a Nineveh. Plus, when he got shot in the ear, I told people right here in the show, I said, I love Trump. I've always liked Trump. I've never talked, uh, other than prophetically, talked negative about Trump. I've always talked good about Trump, and I like him. I've always done it. I voted for him 3 times. So I always try to keep that stuff clear. And then when he got his ear shot, I watched. You remember all this stuff. I watched it on TV. I'm going, man, something happened to that guy. He has changed. Something has changed with Donald Trump when he got shot in the ear. It was obvious. It was very obvious to me. I said, that's more of a Nineveh than anything right there. Just the fact that I could tell by looking at him, he was not the same person. So I think all those things together, and then 3 weeks before the election, as everyone knows that's listening right now, probably, that I sent text to everybody saying, I'm going to talk about Donald Trump and make it plain tonight. That's what I said in a text. Please listen tonight. So 3 weeks before the election, I got on the show and I said, if Donald Trump wins the election, in some ways it's not going to be good, because even though I voted for him, because Hezekiah, who had a second chance, like Trump got a second chance, when he got the second chance for 15 more years, according to the prophet told him he was going to go down. It was over for him. And then he changed his mind because Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and blah, blah, blah. So Hezekiah gets 15 more years. He gets a second chance. And what does he do? Him and the king of Babylon become good buddies, because the king of Babylon sent him a letter saying, man, I'm so glad you got, it was a very nice letter. You're better now. I'm so glad. And Hezekiah was very impressed with that. And I talked about it. I said, that's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know who the king of Babylon is. And I didn't have a clue I never connected Elon Musk to, I wasn't even thinking Elon Musk. I said on the show, I don't even know who that could be or how that could happen. But that's what's going to happen if Donald Trump becomes president. Now, Glenn, you have to know, as much as you argue with me on some things, and we have good arguments, over things that we disagree on, you're going to have a pretty good argument to say that didn't just pretty well just happen, because the scripture actually says that Hezekiah opened up his treasury to the king of Babylon. And Elon Musk, and I said, I don't know if the king of Babylon's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I don't know what he is. They're just regular people who believe weird. They're just regular people. Some of them are good kings, some of them are bad. The guy who loved Joseph was a good Pharaoh. He loved faith. He loved Joseph. He was smart. So we have kings who don't believe, pharaohs who don't believe in God and our God, but yet they're good people, if you will. And so the same thing was happening. I said, I don't know if this king of Babylon is going to be a good person. I don't know what his deal is, but somehow or another, the treasury, when it's opened up to him, he comes back later and takes all those treasures to Babylon. So I don't know what that means. So that qualified me as saying, when I said when Elon Musk came in and they were in the whole Democratic Party and all over CNN, and they were saying, man, you can let him look at our Treasury Department. Exact words that we said, except I didn't say it's Elon Musk because I didn't have a clue. They were arguing. It's still a big deal. You can't let him get in there and look at our treasures, and it's just like the word I gave about Hezekiah. Exactly. Even the U.S. Treasury. I said, I didn't say U.S. Treasury. I said the Israeli Hezekiah's treasuries. So now we have Elon Musk coming in here. That's why I'm very careful to say, because I'm seeing him as the king of Babylon. The king of Babylon
Right.
ain't no godly man. So that's why I'm not saying, and I want to make that clear because you kind of made it sound like I was saying that a possible. So it is a possibility, and because we have linked Elon Musk to the word I gave, the information that I gave about saving Ukraine, and that's what's going to happen with Texas. Texas is going to have a satellite system. It's going to be kind of like that, and it's going to save Texas. I gave that word many times over years ago, and so that's what we're going to have that stuff in Texas. So he's in Texas. Does that mean he's going to be the guy? As far as I'm concerned right now, Glenn, and I want to make it clear to everybody who listens to this show and to the archives that I am not saying Elon Musk is the guy. I'm saying Elon Musk is the king of Babylon because he's the richest man in the world, which makes him the king of Babylon more than anybody. King of Babylon
That
is,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
You know, that biblical parallel and Elon seemed to really fit.
Elon, what? Now say it again.
Well, like you were saying, that basically, open it up to the treasuries, and Elon's the richest man in the world, and basically, it fits like a glove, like I would say.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you
Okay, thank
on
you.
that point. Basically, we're just trying to hash out
Yeah.
what God is saying, and
Exactly.
a lot of different voices out there. Most of them are, just a bunch of gibberish, but the things that I just kind of keep an eye on and discuss with others. I mean, a lot of times people, they jump all over me, telling me this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, well, I can only, try to converse about it and share what I've heard others. That's basically all I'm trying to do is just try to spread the information and let everybody just kind of do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, I just have to. What I have to do because I have my own little network. It's not much, but it's my way of documenting things. So I have to keep everything really clear. I'm not against other people's words, but I have the responsibility to, if I see it's in some ways it might compromise what I'm saying. I have to make that clear. I'm not fighting against them, although I will speak plainly about it. Uh, like I've had people give me other people's words and then they add a little bit to it, and I'm going like, I don't know, there's something wrong with the way you said that. I don't know what it is, and so kind of find out they didn't really say that, but they added a little word to it, so it made me think, well, maybe what I was against was more what they added to it than it was. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to be really, as a prophet, I can't mix things. I have to say clearly what I get, and then if then we like tonight we're bringing up what Brandon Briggs is it Brandon Briggs? Brandon Biggs. Brandon Biggs is saying, and I don't mind. I don't mind doing either. I don't ever mind people saying stuff. Sometimes we get so much information it confuses people. So I try. Let's just keep it down to maybe a couple of people, maybe not a bunch of people, 20 people. What they're going to say, let's keep it down to two or three people or something. My God, it's going to be overwhelming, especially people that have been getting, like you said, the ear thing with him. That pretty well qualifies him, in my opinion. That's one reason that I listen to him is because, like you said, the ear thing. I don't reject anybody. I just don't really listen to them because I have my own world I live in, and I have to stay in my own world. I don't mix. I don't go. Oh, that mixes with mine. Let's mix them. Cindy Jacobs did that with words, and I never agreed with her on that. She would mix this word and that word. Randy, we got to mix these words together. I'm going like, then it's just a jumbled up bunch of mess, and I didn't agree with her on that. And I told her, I don't remember what I told her exactly, but I just didn't agree with it. And she had this thing. Her and a bunch of group of people, and they put all these prophetic words together. It sounds nice. It sounds really nice, but it just doesn't work very well. So we can bring them together, but we have to keep them distinctly clear, especially which is the network that I am the head of under Christ. I have to make it very, very clear what I'm saying so that when what I say comes to pass or doesn't come to pass, or what somebody else says comes to pass, we can know exactly who said what and why they said it. So I've never said uh, that Elon Musk was the person. I think that there's all the information I've gotten and have made public and documented here 3 weeks before the election. I said Donald Trump, if he becomes elected, somehow he's going to get the king of Babylon in there, and he's going to look at the treasuries. I mean, that was like mind-boggling when that happened. I just all over the news, man. They're fighting every day. He can't get into our treasuries and look at our treasuries. He's going to give our secrets away. I'm going like, I was sitting there like freaking out, going, "Oh my God!"
Well, it's like somebody says, they plead the fifth. And technically, that's just the simplest way to not admit that, something a little fishy is going on. So, I mean, when you find out, that he's got these geniuses that use algorithms to decode whatever they're looking at, and they supposedly now, unfortunately, Elon could have done it in a more mature way instead of running across the stage with a chainsaw, looking like a kid, and with his sunglasses on. I mean, that didn't impress me at all. The whole thing is the people, if you tell them straight up, are we still there?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I'll be right back on the video.
No, I'm here.
Yeah. Right? I mean, there's a little delay between the phone and the YouTube video, no doubt?
A little bit. A little. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, anyhow, where was I going with this? Well, anyway, with
Elon walking across the stage with a chainsaw.
Yeah, just coming out with information that they found, 30 billion here, 20 million there. Just basically don't report anything until you got it confirmed and you got the exact amount. Don't have any room for speculation where the media, all they want to do is trash Elon and discredit him. It's just like Trump. The Democrats spend every waking moment trying to get rid of him. And so anyhow, it's really disappointing that this whole political party thing is so ugly right now that we got people that call themselves Americans, and yet they're out there protesting that somebody's looking into the money, funds and where they're going, and yet, it would, in my quick idea here that somehow they may even be involved with taking some of that money, that you said thing.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know much about all of that. And so, it's just, the corruption at least got revealed to a certain degree.
Yeah.
That had to satisfy a bunch of Americans that they're at least happy to a degree that Trump is in there doing what he's doing. But all these other people, all they're doing is foaming at the mouth that he's doing wrong. All these judges and their injunctions. I mean, no doubt every judge that is telling Trump he's got to return a jet plane with a bunch of nutballs in it that harm people, that they're all appointed by Democrats in the past, I would imagine. But here's when I was looking through my things today, I see that Netanyahu is now at the White House, and he spent some time there. And basically, there's a prophetic word that also comes from Brandon from a while ago. And I'm just going to throw this out there, and we'll see what happens with this. But basically, this whole thing with the Ukraine and Russia, according to Brandon, that in the news, it's getting awfully close to actually almost saying it. We just got to wait, to see if it really happens. But, they're saying who's going to attack Iran first, Israel or Trump or whatever. Now, Brandon, months ago, had already declared that Trump is going to be the one to attack certain places in Iran, and they're probably connected with the nuclear sites or whatever. But a weapon that Trump is going to use has never been used in American offensive. And this kind of reminds me of what Putin had used against Ukraine. They actually showed video where these things just came down, and it was like just a big flash hitting the ground, but there was no explosion. And so I don't know if these are these supersonic ballistic missiles that we know that Russia has that are so fast they can't shoot them down. But anyhow, according to the coming days, Trump is going to be the one to hit certain installations with a weapon the world has never seen. It will cripple Iran and their economic system, and it would also tell the rest of the world that the sheriff is back in town, so to speak. And that would also kind of make, some of these other countries think twice that Trump isn't playing around. So that was that thing. But then the thing about Putin and not a lot of people understand NATO. I don't know that much about it, but this whole NATO thing was put together to be allies to combat certain things like the World War II in Germany and different things. And so now Putin, his big issue is that he told all these European countries, don't bring NATO any closer to my borders or we're going to have a problem. So anyhow, NATO is involved with a lot of this stuff. And we just opened up a new American NATO base in Poland. And so anyhow, this whole realm with Putin getting nervous, I don't know exactly what the deal is, that he wants certain areas like Crimea and other things back. I mean, wars always seem to draw the line in the sand differently after, somebody bombs somebody else and then they say, well, okay, here's the new border, whatever. The thing is this one is kind of out there. Now, this is completely biblical in nature, that in Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, it speaks of this fallen entity. I don't want to say it's a fallen angel, but its name is Apollyon.
Yeah.
Okay, and according to Brandon, that at some point this Apollyon, which is chained in the bottomless pit, is going to be released. And when Apollyon is released, he saw it spinning like a tornado, like the Tasmanian devil spins and then stops. According to Brandon,
Yeah.
this Apollyon is going to take over Putin's body. And then at that time, it will no longer be Putin. It will be this evil entity. Then we are going to see a weapon launched into Poland by so-called Putin, or you say Apollyon, I believe, at that time, near Warsaw in Poland. And I would kind of speculate that right there would be the beginning of World War III. I could be wrong. I'm only kind of throwing my 2 cents at it, but so that the Trump attacking. There's an aircraft carrier that they saw moving in close to evidently be possibly the delivery method of this attack that was mentioned. So, like I say, we'll have to just wait and see how any of this plays out. Now, a couple of months from now, if all of a sudden, we go back and say, hey, we were discussing certain things, and then basically Trump had already carried out the attacks on Iran, and then, this weapon was launched near Warsaw. I mean, basically, that is, fulfilled prophetic words, to the T. And so basically, you and I or anybody else out there listening, really, they really just want to know what God is saying. What is he doing? God does nothing until he tells his servants, the prophets. But not every prophet has everything he's doing. This guy might know this part. This guy knows this part. We prophesy in parts. So this guy has one piece. This guy's got piece. So you can put certain things together if proper. You said you didn't like Cindy Jacobs doing it. But when they complement each other, I guess in the long run, after you see a fulfillment, you can kind of put some things together and say, well, it works. But to do it now and to say that it has to work a certain way, well, then we got to stay a little bit back from that one.
Yeah, well, I'm not even saying that you don't mix them together afterwards. That's when you already know. There's a difference between already knowing and not knowing. And so when something does get fulfilled, if you got them all mixed together and nobody knows who said what, then you're not going to know. It's like what doctor has a real cure for who really operated on you that cured you. Was it this doctor? We don't know. They all operated on you, but which one actually said? Well, we don't know. It's all mixed together. So you don't really know who the accurate doctor was on that particular operation that did it. So it's important to know for documentary purposes, the Bible's documented on who did what exactly. I mean, people don't think, well, you just want to get your name. Nah, it's about documentation, and the Bible is full of documentation, and people don't like it when you do that because they usually don't have anything anyway. Most of the time, those people don't, so they don't really care anyway. But it's a thing
Well,
of keeping things in order and keeping things straight, just like the Word of God does. We don't get confused on, it's very plain what Peter did, what John did for the most part. They all say who said what and who did what. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not against what Cindy Jacobs did. She was doing it before the words were made known, and it sounds real pretty, but it also gets, jumbled up.
messy.
I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. So
Yeah.
I know.
Well, when you're speaking of the doctor thing, that reminded me of one final word I was going to bring up, which is an awesome word. Also, Brandon Biggs on this one again. I'm sorry for people that are tired of me talking about Brandon, but he seems to be the one that has the best understanding of hearing God that I know of. So anyhow, the cure for cancer is coming soon. Is a word that he gave. And basically, it would be as simple as taking a pill. Now, Big Pharma, the story about the cure for cancer that I researched goes all the way back to 1934. A guy named Royal Rife, he's an inventor. He created a very high-powered microscope that is very unusual looking. If you look it up on the internet and you look for Royal Rife, microscope, and you'll see probably black and white pictures because that's what it was. But, pipes going left, right, up and down. So, long story short, he was a person who studied, I guess you would say, viruses and whatnot. So, anyhow, he got it to the point where he was able to look at cancer cells that were still living under his microscope, and he could see each one that were different in color, different colors. So
Wow.
he would associate a color with whatever cancer it was, and he got 16 patients. He was given 16 different patients that all had different cancers, and he was basically given the ability to show that he had, the thing. So he put them in like a sauna, like a box, and he used what I would call a frequency generator. Basically, you have these devices now. I mean, they've got things that they literally call a Rife machine out there now. So you can grab it with your handle on your hand, and it'll put frequency into your hand through like a copper handle, so it'll transmit the current. You can't even feel it, right? So in 1934, he cured 16 patients of all these different cancers. They sat in the box once a week, I think, for 20 minutes, and in a month and a half, he cured every one of them. And
Wow.
shortly after that, the American Medical Association, that came out by guess who, Mr. Rockefeller, basically pushed all the petroleum-based pharmaceuticals, and he had buried this guy. And so for 90 years, the one cure that I knew existed, and I don't know if there was any others, was hidden from the people. So, if people are out there, I have suffered, as I've explained, through apnea and all these other things, and I surely, pray and ask God to deliver me and heal me, and that still hasn't happened, and I don't know why. But the whole thing is I mean, you would think, how can God, love His creation, and basically the things that the people have gone through? They are paying tax up the butt. They're everything's being manipulated. I mean, it's just that the deck is so stacked against people that it gets to the point where some of them are now questioning, why do I even exist, and they commit suicide. It's getting bad. Now, you would like to think, and I ask the Lord this, and I've got no answer. Why can't He just reveal Himself a little bit more through healings and whatnot? And maybe, He's going to do this in the future, hopefully. But up until now, the people have gone through a lot of stuff, and so when you hear someone saying that the cure for cancer is coming, it seems to me that the only way it's going to come is because Trump is now president, and he's got RFK Jr. in there running the health realm. Somewhere in there, they're gonna have to put restraints on big pharma. I mean, all these TV commercials, like 2 out of 3 commercials are all drug commercials. It's ridiculous. So, the whole bottom line is that, we're waiting to hear the announcement that the cure for cancer has been found. And Elon Musk even gave a story recently that a friend's mother had terminal brain cancer, and she was given 4 months to live. And somewhere in that, somebody decided to give her, a medicine called Wellirig. And I guess I looked it up, and it looked like it was for maybe kidney cancer or liver cancer or something. So some of these drugs that they have, they originally make them for this, but then they use them for this later on. So anyhow, this woman took this Wellirig, and in a short amount of time, she was completely free of cancer.
Wow.
Now that is an awesome story, and
Yeah.
so the whole thing is it's kind of a weird connection. We're talking about Elon a little bit here, and then Elon had the story that he was the one to tell it on a stage somewhere, and he gave out the name of the drug. Now, whether or not this Wellirig is the actual drug to heal all cancer, I am not sure that that's true. I don't know. I can't say yes or no. But the whole thing is I mean, can you imagine that all the people, how many people have died of cancer in the last 90 years that should have never really died?
Yeah.
Because the cure was withheld from them.
Right, and see, that's the part of the problem. Look at what you just said, and God bringing. Why doesn't God bring something? It looks like to me in different ways. He's done that. Look at all the healing ministries that have been fought and come against, and just hated and undermined and tried to take them down. And the invention you said where the guy had the box and all that and then cured like 16 different cancers. There was an answer right there. That was God bringing some answers, right? What happened? The system did away with it. So, like you said, I think the answer is partially what you said about Trump coming in and getting the right people together that can, instead of stopping this stuff, let it work. So, I think that God has brought a lot of different healing ministries, a lot of different things, and the devil has been hard at trying to stop every one of them. There's been people who have had anointings, for amazing anointings, man, for healing, miracles, and the devil just really goes after them because, and I think they have witches. I think the pharmaceutical industry has their own batch of warlocks and witches that they probably use to fight people and do all kinds of things. Plus every other, I'm sure they use any kind of, like, Pharaoh and all those guys. They use all kinds of mad magical things. If you want to fight something, you can fight it. So I think that God has brought a lot of answers, and a lot of it has been countered by the world and so the fact that you like the good. I think the thing you said was really so cool is that about Trump maybe being able to bring Kennedy in here and others to clean the system up, which is what I think he's doing. I think he's going to try to clean the system up, and of course, again, who's going to come against him? Who's going to try to counter this stuff? Who's going to try to take it down? We all know, because it happens with healing ministries. It happened with the guy at the box that you're talking about, which is a really awesome story, by the way. Thanks for sharing that. So this is really the answer. I think that it is who's ruling, who's ruling, who governs our countries, and so yeah, I think you gave yourself your own answer basically, and God has really brought the answers, but it's just really been fought. Like look what happened to Jesus, the most miracle ministry ever, and of course they crucified. Of course he was going to die anyway for us for our sins, but you see how the world system just tries to stop it from happening, and they want to be the answer. They want to have their pharmaceutical things, like you talked about with the Rockefellers, whoever it was, and yeah, and they want to have the answer because they want to make money off of it, and so that's why
That's the thing. The pharmaceutical realm basically doesn't heal the problem.
Yeah.
It blankets the symptoms.
There
So
you go.
they can keep ringing the cash register over
Well,
and
that's
over
my whole
again,
point. That's my whole point.
and take away some of your extra pain and keep you alive enough to keep buying their stuff.
Yeah, Daryl, if you're on, if you want to say, he was talking about how the upside down cross with Elon earlier. He said there's more too. Yeah, I've heard that story before. But if you're still on, you want to talk about that, just let me know. I'm sorry, we've kind of gone all over the place now. We're gonna have all week long to talk about this stuff. I've even quit writing music and doing my music thing because all of a sudden I got the Lord said it's happening. The things I've been showing you are happening. So I want you to start opening up and talking about that again. And so we're back at this again, and we'll do the music stuff too. But because there's so much going on, man. I can't believe that I'm getting anything done. If it wasn't for my new brain thing I got going on, I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff, dude. I'd be over there in a corner going, I guarantee you, I'm getting so much stuff done. It is amazing. The Holy Spirit and my new brain are just loving each other. I'm guarantee you, it's really a beautiful thing. I got a lot more to go, but anyway, so that's my hit on that. Uh, so I have a brain invention that is actually working. And of course, this because I don't have the ability to go into and do testing, do official testing. Sometimes I can't tell what works the best, the easy, the most powerful thing. I can't tell. All I know is overall, my brain is completely different for a 71, almost 72-year-old guy. My brain is like moving so fast and happening. So it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So maybe between all of us that that are getting things from the Lord, we can put them together. I mean, I think it's an awesome. The thing of putting things together is awesome. When Cindy Jacobs talked about that, I thought that's just beautiful. I liked it. I love it. Who wouldn't love that? But the fact is, it just I don't want to tell too much of the story because it might make people look bad, and I don't want to do that. But I've dealt with it up front, and them telling me stuff that they ended up being wrong on, and they're right about most things. I think there's good people, good people. I'm not trying to criticize their personalities; they're wonderful people. But they're like human beings. They're trying to work a system, and therefore trying to work their system. They tried to degrade mine, and and God just says, get out from among them. And so I did, and it's been good ever since then. But they were used mightily in my life. So there's people that are out there that are prophets, man. That like Brandon. I haven't kept up with him, and since you last, I mean, I don't keep up with him. Seems like a really fine guy, but I live in my own world, and then when something comes up and people like you tell me what so and so said, I'm going, man, that's really cool. That's really amazing. But anyway, so y'all, I am. We will talk about this more. I know we've given a lot of information out tonight, and I've never discussed it until today when I realized that uh, the year and a half from the October 13th thing is exactly this week. This week, man, this week when the shaking took place, this week and last week, within the last few days, the 13th will be exactly a year and a half. When I saw that this morning, I think it was this morning, I freaked out, man. I mean, I just went, oh my God, and I looked at my clock when I looked, it was 6:43, which is 13 and 13th thing. God's just kind of like going, gotcha. I'm going like, yeah, you sure did. That's amazing. But it's really interesting. Okay, uh, bring me on for a second. Or where are you at? Oh, okay, there, Paul. There's Joe right there. Okay. You
You have
know,
a party call?
yeah, hang on a sec. We can't, hey, Daryl Paul, you there?
I'm there. Yes, Randy. Thank you.
I'm hearing that back. Whose phone is that? Hang on a sec. Daryl, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
My turn.
So that's your phone that's messing up. I was fine until you got on.
Still here?
I hear, go ahead. Do what now? Hello? Testing, testing?
Let me see.
I,
Yeah, I had it on speaker. If I took it off speaker, I want to see if that would make a difference.
It did make a difference. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So
Okay.
Download us. You said something. You texted me earlier when Glenn was talking about Elon Musk with an upside down cross at a party. You said there's more too. So let anything else you want to talk about. Go ahead.
There was more too. Now I'm gonna text you some things this week because I want to get everything together. But I'm glad that Glenn did bring that up because Elon. I mean, I've over the years, but now that he's with Trump, everything kind of gets heightened a little bit. Everything that this guy's doing. I'm not saying that he hasn't done. You pointed out a lot of good stuff that he was doing, but at the same time, I'm not sure if this guy is of God. You
Yeah.
know, things that way that he talks, things that he does, um, it's questionable. And I've heard I've heard, like I said, we watch the news, we hear things. So I'm a watcher just like everybody else. But from what I've seen and heard of this guy for the last, let's just say, 4 to 5 years, he's done a lot of good stuff, but did a lot of stuff that seems very like I say, questionable. Now, even just most recently, when he was on stage announcing one of the things he did with Trump, he gave the Hitler thing, and I'm like, why would you just do that? Knowing what people think that means. Just the way that he did it, and like on stage like that, I'm my mind,
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling sometimes for me to wonder and think about that.
Yeah.
Is one thing. Now, also too, I'm not sure if I heard you talk about this about Musk, and maybe you might have some more information. But his time is running short as an official, quote unquote, employee of the federal government. Now, it was only supposed to be for like 120 days, and they said he's about to make his exit. This is what I heard last week. They said he was going to make his exit, but he'll still probably be around, Trump
Yeah.
and everything. But his days as a short-term federal employee has gone, or is going very soon in the coming. I think they said 30 to 60 days, something like that.
Right. Yeah. My whole thing.
They did mention that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My whole thing about Elon is I told Glenn because Glenn uh, kind of sort of went toward me befriending Elon, a little bit, but I've made it very plain, with all the different words that I had. The one that I gave 3 weeks before the election. I mean, that was shocking for me personally. That I didn't even know what I was talking about. Hezekiah is like Trump, and if Trump gets the second round, if he gets the second round, if he gets elected again, it's not going to be all good because he's going to be inviting the king of Babylon in. I didn't even have a clue who the king of Babylon was when Elon Musk came in. So that's where I'm at on Elon Musk. That's why I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Elon Musk, and I've said this on the show a few times. Elon Musk is a global person. He's not a United States person. He's global. That's not a bad thing, but that's what he is. He's a global person. He's thinking global. Uh, he wants to run. He wants to rule the world basically with his stuff and technology and all that. But also, he's a businessman. So as a businessman, he's going to sell. He could sell, and I talked about this years ago. That I said, whoever this is could Elon Musk could sell us, and we could pay him for his system, and have a deal where we use his systems, his satellite systems, without him running anything. You know what I'm saying? We just, of course, if he owns the system, he could mess it up, I guess. But if he's going to be wanting to make money. So he's a businessman who likes to make money. So we could pay him. America could pay him for his systems that would be separate from the Mark of the Beast system, satellites and that kind of thing. That way we have two different systems. So that's the way I've talked about it already before tonight, way before tonight. And also that he's a king of Babylon. King of Babylon was not a believer, right? He wasn't a. That's why they call him the king of Babylon because he believed that like Babylon believed. It doesn't mean that he was a bad guy. Pharaoh loved Joseph, right? So this is how I started adjusting all this information when I say that Elon could be the answer. And I'm not saying that Elon is of God. James Grable is saying Elon Musk is a way not God, not of God. And I'm not saying that he is of God or isn't of God. I'm just saying that's not even the point to me. The point is he's a businessman. He wants to make money. He wants to whoop up on the bad guys. And if he thinks that the like he thought Putin was a bad guy, what did he do? He might have believed he might be a worse unbeliever than Putin is. But he says, I'm going to show you, I can take you down, dude. So it was more of a, I'll rule over you. And it's just like with Joseph, Pharaoh. That Pharaoh gave him authority to do everything except sit on the throne, right? And he was not a believer at all. He believed in a bunch of gods. You see what I'm saying? This is how I'm processing this thing with Elon, so that everyone will understand, especially those people listening to the archive, come back and listen to the archive. They will understand that what I'm saying is that that Elon may be used. I didn't say he's a Christian. I didn't say he's going to go, oh, you're such a nice person. I'm just saying he's like Pharaoh. He sees something he likes. He's going to go, that's going to work for me. You're going to run everything, boy. I don't care whose God you serve. Your God's just one more God, but your God is right on this one. So let's let him run things. And so he ran it, and he was like a father to Joseph, and Joseph was like a father to him, and yet he never, as far as we know, he never became a Hebrew, right? As far as we know. So does that make sense to y'all? That I am not saying that Elon Musk is anywhere near of God or not of God. I'm not even making that point. He's a businessman. He could be much like Pharaoh with Joseph. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Okay, you're clarifying it for me much better now. I know sometimes when you speak, you're very you're excited. So sometimes I might take your excitement for something else, but you just explain that you're not saying one way or the other what he is,
right?
Which is good. I do appreciate that. But I would like to ask you, too, going back earlier in the talk, what you were saying, and you did send the text out earlier about May, June 2026. Because I know you had said before the shakeup was prophetic, but when you added on today, you were talking about the shakeup and then the new currency. So is that also prophetic of 2026? The shakeup is going to be with the currency.
That's what I see. I see that, and I'm going with what I'm going with is I have 2 a year and a half periods from my experience with, my Nineveh situation.
Texas earthquake.
Pardon me?
Texas earthquake.
Yes, the Texas earthquake thing. Right. That was a big Nineveh for me because I gave 40 days just like Nineveh. Exactly. I put that in the article. I said in an article that I wanted put out that I was going to pay them for, right? That I didn't think they'd put out because once they saw it, they're going to go like, "You're an idiot. We're not going to put that in here." That's what I thought, and then I'd get out of it. But no, what happened? God sets me up. He has a lady there who he gave a dream. Like I said, to this day, I do not know who she was. Never met her. Don't know her. She never talked to me. I never saw her face. I never even knew her name. They never even told me anything. She had a dream the night before I show up. Don't tell me. I mean, God just set me up, man. He said, I'm not going to let you get out of here without them putting that in there. So he had her give her that dream, and that's the thing that made that thing take off. So I said in the article that I wanted them to put in, when that lady read it and she freaked out, it says, I had a dream that God was going to shake Lubbock, Texas in 40 days. Repent of your sins and come to Jesus because he loves you. And then I put my name at the bottom. It was that short and simple. And so she read it. She looked at it. I know I've said this many times, but you have to put it all together. She read it, looked at it. She looked up at me, first kind of calm. She said, did this really happen to you, sir? I said, yes, it did. I'm thinking, why is she asking me that, Well, a lady just told her that morning, and everybody who works there, that she had a dream, an earthquake in Shake Lubbock. You see how God set me up? He set me up big time. So she starts shaking and trembling and crying. When there's customers, we're doing business, right? This place is, I don't know how many people had in there because I was freaking out with me doing it, having trouble. So, but she started crying and shaking and saying, sir, just last night, somebody who works here had a dream that an earthquake in Shake Lubbock, Texas, and she runs off to the back. I'm going like, this is, I've had some freaky things happen to me prophetically, but I'm going like, man, what's going on here? This kind of freaked me out. And so that made the thing take off. And then I put a 40-day period on it, just like Jonah did, exactly. God confirmed it to me time and time again that 40 days was the right day. It wasn't just one word I got. He confirmed it. I'm worse than all these other guys. I'm worse than Moses. I'm worse than Gideon. Got 2 or 3. No, I had like 50, and I'm not kidding. Somewhere around 20 to 50 confirmations about the 40-day thing, right? So I'm putting that in there with confidence, y'all, that God spoke to me. And so God just confirmed it by having that lady. She didn't have a date for it, but she said she had a dream that night. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And so I am convinced I'm fixing to make this thing public, y'all. I have a reputation. I have a good reputation at this time, with people. I'm a prophet. I see things. I words of knowledge, all different kinds of things. I'm getting in services and people getting healed. And I had a reputation to protect. And He kept telling me, just do it, Chandler. I went to the Lubbock Library and went to the library to see if there was even any fault lines because I knew nothing about earthquakes, except they have to have a fault line for it to actually shake the buildings. I'm going like, there's no fault lines in Lubbock that I can see, and God says, just do it, Chandler, do it. So I did, and He set me up. He knew that I was struggling. He knew that I was questioning. So what did he do? He had that lady. Well, that lady thing caused it to go off the chart. So 40 days later, 30 days later, 10 days before it was supposed to happen, at a building that I had in a dream that they interviewed me at, that the Avenue University, ABC, NBC, whatever it was. My pastor friend worked with him. I've said this already several times, but he called me up. He said, Randy, I'm going to interview you. He said, my boss wants me to interview you. I'm going like, really? On ABC or NBC? He said, yeah. So we met down there and I did it. And so this thing just took off, man. So 10 days before the thing was supposed to happen at that building where they interviewed me, where I told them it's all going to happen, where the major part of it was going to shake. People prayed. It was in church bulletins. The whole thing I've shared already 20 times, 40 times, 100 times. And they prayed my earthquake away, in my opinion. I got ticked off about it. I did. I told my friend, we drove up in his old truck and to see how many people were up there praying. And it made me mad. I turned to him. I said, I can't believe they're praying my earthquake away, man. They're going to pray my earthquake away. All it is a sign. It's not a destructive thing. But they freaked out. The whole city freaked out. They're calling my name on popular country and western radio stations and just radio stations everywhere, trying to get me to come on. The Lord said, don't do any interviews, except He let me do that one with Steve. That was it. And I'm going like, that's amazing, man. I mean, it was crazy. So I'm all over the news. I'm all over the place. I'm pointing my finger in the camera. I would love to get that. I would love to get that from them. I wish if they still have it, I'm sure they have it. I've even tried to contact them so I could get that's oh my God, that news story was amazing. It was amazing. And to watch yourself, you got to watch yourself on a local news channel in a town of 140,000, 50,000, 120,000, and watching yourself point the finger in the camera and say, an earthquake going to shake. It just kind of blows your mind when you see yourself doing it, right? So, 40 days later, 10 days later after they prayed, of course, it didn't happen. I'm going, man, I knew they're going to pray my earthquake away. So did I have my doubts? Are you kidding me? Of course I did. Well, that wasn't really God. I had white witches call me. A white witch called me. She told me she was a white witch. Told me my dream was personal, that it had nothing to do with, really going to happen. I'm going like, I said, honey, you're too late for me because I've been convinced already. So thank you for letting me know. She I'm a white witch. And I'm going like, okay, whatever. So, it happened, a year and a half later, almost to the day. A 4.7 earthquake shook that whole town, as I've said many times. So I have something I lived through in Nineveh, even with the 40-day thing that was confirmed by God 100 times. I heard I don't know how many, bunches and bunches of times. I asked Him, how about one more confirmation? Okay, give me another one. Give me another one. I was just a doubter, man. I was like going, dear God, am I going to risk my whole reputation by putting this in the paper? And I need you to confirm it, a few more times for me because this is just crazy. And He did. He made sure that I was convinced. And then He kicked my rear when I went to the library and said, just get your butt up there and just do it. Just do what I tell you. And so it was.
And He took it out on the last page.
Do what now?
He took it out on the last page.
I was going to have it put on the last page, right? I'm going to put it on the last page, right? And so they put it on the front page. And so I'm going like, Yeah, they put it on the front page. I asked them to put.
Oh, I thought
No, I
I
paid
thought
for
they
the.
put it where you wanted it.
No, I put no. That's what my whole point was that they because that lady worked there. She worked there for years. And Thrifty Nickel is big in Lubbock. It's everybody goes to Thrifty Nickel, and that lady had worked there for a long time. So she was a solid employee, and she's the one who had the dream. And so I guess that they put it on the front page. I paid for the back page, and I remember I probably could get the check if I looked through my stuff enough, but where I paid for it. It's been many. It's been 20. It's when 1990, 1991. I can remember the date. I don't have the date. I don't have the information right in front of me, but it was a long time ago. And anyway, so because I went through that thing, I'm very familiar with the Nineveh. I'm very familiar. I'm the Nineveh guy. Sad to say, and so so when I'm talking about all this stuff, the Nineveh that I have two Ninevehs in this particular situation. In a sense, the October 13th thing, a year and a half, and a year and a half from October 13th. Just look it up for yourself. I had to look it up 4 or 5 times to make sure I got it right. It is this week. This week is a year and a half when the shaking started with Trump doing the tariffs and all that. Literally a year and a half, man. Like, come on. This is okay. Hang on a second.
Welcome to Turbo Break. The conference is in presentation mode. There are 6 parties in the conference. This call is being recorded. You are a host.
Okay. I guess I lost you guys. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah, I didn't know I was off. My phone, my battery went out of my phone, on my other phone. So I got okay. So I don't even know what y'all heard, but anyway, so y'all, I've had my Nineveh. So people that can't judge me very easily because most people have never had a Nineveh like I've had, as far as I know. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but so I'm pretty qualified to know a Nineveh when I have one or when I see one. That's why I was pretty open to when Glenn kept saying, "Randy, I think that not the star, what'd you call it?
Well, the eclipse and the Nineveh cities that passed over was
Yeah,
a little bit more than coincidence.
exactly. And when you brought that up, I caught, man, I thought it was cool, and then I think someone sent me a text saying it's not all 7 and blah blah blah. Well, still, it's pretty cool. Whatever, it's pretty cool. So I thought that was cool. I wasn't against any of that stuff. I just didn't know. I don't know, man. I'm just like, how am I supposed to know anything? I don't know anything. I never even heard of that stuff. And then the fact that the earthquakes happened in Lubbock, a few months in that same season that happened, and I'm telling Glenn on the show, it could be a Nineveh. It sounds like a Nineveh, and for a few days I went for it, and then I said, it's not a Nineveh. It's got to be really strong to be a Nineveh. That's not a Nineveh to me. And so the Nineveh was Trump won the election the way he won it. That was a real Nineveh, a king, and all the people that voted for him, miraculously, it was amazing. So I know Nineveh when I experienced one, I was even open to a Nineveh, but I just had to have a real Nineveh. I didn't want some fake. Oh yeah, I think I feel like something happened, and now we got a Nineveh. No, it had to be something miraculous.
Well, there's one other thing. When Brandon predicted Trump was going to get shot in the ear, he said in his outline that when Trump went down on his knee, he had an actual born again moment right then and there.
Oh, I believe that.
One thing I was going to mention. The other thing, we kind of switched channels from Elon, but there was another word that was a couple of days ago. I'm trying to remember it was by who. I don't know if it was Brandon or not, but anyway, they foresaw Elon being on, like the front of a magazine, like Person of the Year. And I mean, usually that's Time Magazine. That's the only one that does that. I don't know. Well, now whether or not it's a literal, that he's going to end up on the front of the magazine or not, we'll have to wait and see. But after that was said, then there was a word from God saying that
Oh,
So
wow.
keep that in mind. That really would fit the bill.
That would. Just like Trump. Look what happened with Trump. Trump was definitely changed that day. I mean, I remember seeing him, and we talked about this on the show. I said that dude is different. He's a completely different person. I could tell by looking at him. So if Elon had one of those, hey, just think if Trump is witnessing to him, man. Wouldn't that be awesome? If Trump said, "Yeah, I want him to Jesus." Woo!
The other thing that's a lot of social media is that people are bringing up Paula White because Trump hired her as her number one, I guess, spiritual advisor,
Yeah,
if that's the position. But anyhow, she's always been around Trump. She was around on his first term. And the thing is, I mean, I don't know her personally, but I always cringe when somebody in the ministry that, especially when they're associated with Trump, and it's a big thing right now, is that she's asking people to give $1,000 toward Passover or whatever, and then that when you do this, that something special is going to happen.
yeah,
And I'm sorry, but that sounds like the salesman pitch to me, and I just don't think she is the right. I mean, I think Brandon Biggs would be a better advisor to Trump than Paula White, but I mean that's just my viewpoint.
yeah. Daryl, what do you think?
Can I just want to ask a question. I never asked Randy this point blank. And Glenn, since you're on the line, I know you know a lot about Trump too. And I know you may not have an actual answer, but I want to ask you and Randy just your thoughts. Do you think Trump is a Christian?
He is now. He's at least a believer. I doubt if he's praying in tongues or anything like that. But once he went down on his knee when he got shot, Randy and I both agree that he now, is at least in the door, being a believer and having that event happen to him.
Yeah, I think that he's.
Okay.
I think he's just like something happened to him there. I mean, born again. That's what it looked like to me. I mean, I didn't have the Lord tell me he got born again, but it looked like it. It looks like something. Like when I got saved, I got truly born again. I was a heathen from hell. You know, doing everything, just not everything, but almost everything. And one prayer of God, if you're real, I need to know, and it happened quick, and I was born again just like that. I mean, I was pure and clean, washed clean. I didn't even ask for God to clean me. I was pure and clean. The Holy Spirit came in me. I love God. God loved me. I knew it. My mouth changed. Everything changed. I didn't smoke anymore. Never didn't need anything. Totally delivered. And so, can that happen to? Can Trump fall down on his knees and get born again? I think so. I think it's very possible. He sure looks like he did. To me, I would say yeah more than I would know. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure something supernatural happened to him. Yeah.
Okay. Now and I know this happened after the swearing in and everything, because I've been watching Biden and Trump, Obama, all these people as closely as anyone could just watch this kind of like on the TV and with different things and whatnot. So certain things I like about Trump, certain things I like about Biden, but there's a lot of stuff I don't like about both of them. But one thing during the RNC is what I saw Trump, and he let that person from that false religion, pray there, and he had his head bowed. I'm like, dude, if you're a Christian, you should never put your head bowed for someone talking about a false God. So I was very confused by that. Why he allowed that to happen at the RNC. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's a really good question. It's a really good thought process. I think that just like me when I first got saved, I didn't really understand, what all that stuff was, and I'm not making excuses for him because I really don't know. But if some guy would have been praying from some other religion before I really read the Bible and knew the Bible and had the Bible taught to me, not just positive thinking stuff, but the real Bible, and I'd really had knowledge of that, I probably wouldn't have bowed my head either. But uh, so I don't know. I don't know. He just had that experience. So the only thing I could think of that could give him any excuse would be because he just, you know, doesn't know or didn't know or hadn't been convicted about that particular thing yet. You don't get everything in one shot. I mean, I didn't get everything in one
Right.
shot. There's a lot of things I didn't
That's
get.
true.
I didn't understand much of anything. If you'd have asked me if this and that was okay, I'd have said, well, I'm not going to do it. But I guess I don't know if the Bible says you can do it. I guess I really didn't know. So I was just ignorant as you could be. But in my own personal convictions, I had I got truly born again, man. I mean, there's no question about it. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't know the Bible, so I think that
Well, if he
maybe
is, and if you ever get a word that saying that you think that he is, please just mention it to me. I mean, it'd be nice to know because I've always had thoughts and concerns about that with him, and of course others too. But we all start somewhere, baby Christian, and then you kind of keep learning, moving on. I'm not sure
yeah,
how much time he has for that, but if he did get convicted, like you said, and he had that experience, and it may have changed him, then
yeah.
amen for that.
He definitely got
That makes
changed. Well, there's no question about it. He definitely got changed. I mentioned that on the show when it happened. I could just tell by looking at him. I'm a servant of God. Not that that means that much, but I've been around a while. I've seen people that I've been fooled by people before, but he wasn't trying to convince anybody. It was the look on his face. He had totally just changed overnight. I mean, I watched him very. I liked him as a heathen or whatever he was before. As a maybe he believed in God, but he didn't really. Maybe he's just a positive thinker. I don't know what he was. But when after that experience, I mean, I watched him closely, and I said, Lord, he's got that glow of heavenly glow on him and just his demeanor. It wasn't just like he was trying to convince everybody. I've had an experience. You could tell. I don't know. I could just tell by looking at him. It was easy for me. But you know, so yeah. So I think more yes than no.
Daryl, I mean, Randy had mentioned it before that, people have certain qualities, and God has used people, that accomplished what God wanted to do. So when you look at anybody that could be exposing all the corruption in the government, you will never see a career politician doing this. And that leaves him as the only one as a businessman to know exactly how money and everything works. And on top of that, I mean, a lot of people hate Trump because he's very abrasive. He can get you so upset just by saying a couple of words or just his demeanor. I mean, basically that actually I think God uses, even though maybe he cusses and he says some words maybe he shouldn't. But the bottom line is that Trump is an expert at upsetting the status quo, and he actually feeds off of that, and he makes it good to accomplish the mission. So people may not like his methods, but there's a lot of things right there that he gets the job done, and naturally not everybody's going to love the guy. But this is kind of my view that God picked Trump because of his qualities and his abrasiveness, that he can take advantage of it, and he can get the job done. So we'll just have to see,
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
where God uses them and how and whatnot. I mean, I was already informed by the prophetic. This one's another one that I'll just throw out there. There's all this yip and yap about somehow Trump's going to have a third term. Well, that's complete hogwash. So basically today I was watching. There's this what is it, Newsmax? So Chris Cuomo used to be on CNN, and he got
I
fired.
watch him almost every night. Yes.
And the thing is, though, is that when he moved to this new outline, they're supposed to be, the most neutral, unbiased realm. Now, tonight, I didn't really, care for the show because he's got all this explanation about one thing or another. And the whole thing is they mentioned that this, I think he's a sports broadcaster. What is it, Stephen A. Smith? Okay, right. So Cuomo has him on. He has O'Reilly on a lot, and so so he looks like he's really He a very down to earth guy and whatnot, But I don't know, sportscast becoming president. But one thing that I think a lot of people, if they want to, do the political thing, I don't think people that have now witnessed what Trump has done in a short amount of time, and in the collapse of the Democrats and what they did to try to defeat them and everything else. I cannot believe in 1,000 years that there would be a Democrat that would ever be able to win the next election, no matter what. And so the prophetic has already declared, and this is just throwing it out there, that the next president, and there will be another one. Some people say this is it, this is the end times, everything's going to be shut down, Trump's the end. Well, according to this prophetic word, it is not. And so, what other, high-ranking Republican person that is out there that would have the best chance? And basically, his name is Ron DeSantis, and he's doing great things down in Florida. They try to pass a bill to stop all the chemtrails and whatnot. So they're doing everything they can down there. So, I mean, it would make sense if this did happen, that Trump gets done doing whatever and we're moving forward. We don't know exactly what everything's going to look like, but then there will be one more president, and it will be Ron DeSantis, according to the prophetic, as I had heard. And it makes sense to me. I just thought I'd throw that out, too.
But I'm gonna have you, and I appreciate that. I remember what Randy had said. I believe he said it last year about Mike Huckabee, who is in Trump's administration right now. I remember the exact. Randy will remember the exact position he had. I think with Israel right now. But Randy had his prophetic word that at some point Mike Huckabee was going to be president. And if I do the math in terms of the age that Mike Huckabee is right now, it would make sense. It would make sense for him to come right after Trump, because another 4 after that, I believe he would be too old. So, but this one, he would be like right in the middle 70s if he was able to come. And if that word.
How old is Huckabee now? He's like 60 what? He's
like 69.
Oh, is he 69?
68, 69. Yeah, I think it's 68, 69 when I checked. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't even thought about it lately. Awesome. Well, right now
I forgot that Randy said that, but now that
that's okay.
I
hey,
recall.
I really don't care.
I'm
People
just
can.
throwing it out there from some other.
Oh, that's okay. People can say anything. I've had people say all kinds of things. I have one guy comes on our show once in a while. I don't think that Nathaniel Rothschild's the Antichrist. I'm going like, well, and I just waited for him to say who he thought it was, but he never did. I guess he thought I'd get mad or something. I'm not going to get mad at that. Are you kidding me? It's just kind of, it's interesting. But look at what's going on with Huckabee right now. As far as a real good note on that is that he has now, because when we poured oil on his head back in 2007, and I actually poured the oil on his head and prophesied over him. The lady who had me do that, Janet Folgers, the one who invited me, is the one who invited him and all the people, and all the Sam Brownback and all the ones. Her request for me by email was, Randy, can you come and see if God shows you if one of these 7 candidates or one of these 7 people that these guys are coming to this debate will be the next David. The next David. That's what she asked for, the next David. And I went, yeah, I can be there. So I was there with my banker friends, my market friends, and my buddies, and we sat up there, and the Lord said, it's that guy down there on the far left-hand side. And I'd never heard of him in my life. And I said, yeah, when they nudged me, because they were supposed to go tell Janet, I said, yeah, it's that guy down there on the far left-hand side. He says, Huckabee? I went, that's what he said. That's what he told me, Huckabee. And so we met Huckabee after that, and my job was to pour oil on his head and prophesy over him. So now look at him. He's now, a David in a sense for Israel. I mean, in a sense, he's now the ambassador, or I think it's a pretty much a done deal. The ambassador for Israel right now. That's going to be huge. And at this time in this season, with everything going on with the temple and all that, I got a feeling that may just raise Mike Huckabee up to a whole nother level. What do y'all think?
I mean, I think it's a good points you made, because I also remember something else you also said. I think we right around the same time you had mentioned Mike Huckabee. You said America wasn't going to be number 1, 2, or 3 maybe anymore, but you also said that we would have another Christian
A
president
godly president, right?
in the White House.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
Mike Huckabee is that
So,
person. Yeah.
and I see when I see Mike Huckabee, I see that that's what he looks like. You know, he is. He looks like he's a Christian man.
Oh, he's definitely a
So
Christian man. Yeah.
there's that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely a Christian man, and he's a very godly man. I've only talked to him twice in my life. Once was at actually I've talked to him 3 times. I've been with him. I was with him in Florida. We met 2 times in Florida, and then I was on an airplane going somewhere. We was at an airport. I got off the plane, and he was just, and the place was packed out with people everywhere. He just was rocking right toward me. I said, "That Mike Huckabee?" And he says, "Randy Chandler." I went, "Yeah." I said, "What are you doing, man?" He said, "Oh, I'm just, passing through." I said, "Me too." And we kind of looked at each other, and he said, "How are you doing?" I said, "Fine." And we didn't say a whole lot. And I went to my next destination, so did he. But other than that, I've never even talked to him. I mean, I don't really have a relationship with him. I've had dreams. I had dreams about him. Some things that some of it was not all that great. Uh, but it all changed. The not so great things changed, but it kind of made me anyway. So I haven't told everything, but yeah, he's definitely a Christian, a man of God, and a very balanced person who anyway. So yeah, that's definitely a big possibility
He's in
now.
the
That
administration now, so it would almost kind of make sense.
yeah, it kind of
The
does.
transition, you know.
It kind of does. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's yeah. I poured oil on his head and said he would be president of the United States of America, and I thought it was going to be then, when he was running against because he went from zero to hero. I mean, they had what they called after we prayed, and this is all in his book. I'm not saying this. He says this in his book called "Doing the Right Thing" or something like that. I have the book somewhere. He said in that book that after we prayed for him that night, that fear broke off of him, and he had what it was called after that, the Huckabee. I mean, he took off like a rocket, man. I mean, he went from zero to nobody knows who he is to the front runner, and with just in a few weeks. I don't remember exactly what it was, but then anyway, there's a lot of things that went on in that campaign. I and he are both very upset about how they did some stuff, but yeah, so it's going to be amazing to watch happen.
So Randy, also too, now getting back to my original point, that text and the man-made crash, and then Trump saying that, as you said, to me, that's a big, big, big prophetic word that came to pass. That you've said,
Oh, the man-made word, yeah.
particularly in more recent times. This was very huge.
Oh, I thought it was too. Yeah, that's why I wanted to tell everybody about it because I thought it was huge. I mean, when I saw, I never even put that together. Like I think he had been working on doing the tariffs and stuff. I'm just like I got my stuff I'm doing. I'm trying to do music. I'm trying to do all kind of. I'm busy, and I don't have time to sit around and think about stuff. And all of a sudden, I just realized, oh my God, that's a man-made. He just said he's doing it on purpose. Basically, he doesn't actually say those exact words, but he says, it's our medicine. He said we need this. And he's a smart guy. He's a market guy. He's a financial guy. He knew that when he did that, what was going to happen with the markets. People say, "Oh, he didn't know what he was doing. It just happened because." Nah, man, he knew exactly what he was doing. He did it on purpose, and so I'm glad for him that he did it. I'm not mad. I'm glad that he's doing it. But yeah, that I thought it was pretty big too. Personally, I thought that was a pretty big word. I bigger than any Brandon Biggs word. Did I just say that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. Brandon Biggs is big, man. But I'm just bigger. I got a bigger belly than I think he's got a pretty good belly on him. So I may not be quite a big belly as he's got. But anyway, I'm just playing. But yeah, Brandon Biggs is okay. I'm just I'm just more available, man. I'm on 4 nights a week on video. I'm big.
And because of this, Randy, what's gonna you say happen May June or so of 2026? this is going to, as you say, accelerate the end times, right?
Yeah, we are saying that everybody thought if Trump got back in, that was a big deal with Trump getting back in, was that if he gets back in, it's all going to settle down. We'll go back to being great again. And after, I mean, I just told people after that, I said, "No, you don't understand. When God gets ready to do something, it doesn't matter who's in there. It's going to accelerate." So yeah, that's kind of my general point with that, is that because God's in it, and because I know God is in it, I've had so much confirmation with the red heifer thing and all that, that it's taken off, and Trump's going to be, if Trump may lead the whole thing. He may be up there at the temple. I may be with him on the temple, going like, "Hey, dude, good to finally get to meet you, boy. What you doing up here?" Something like that. I don't know, but so it's all set up and ready to go, and Trump is going to be used to accelerate with him saying, "Everybody's going to kiss my ring." Basically that's what he says. In a very humble way. Everybody's going to be kissing my ring, man. We're already, we're going to make Putin and all of them. They're going to be kissing my ring, and I'm going like, so that's going to accelerate it to me, in my opinion. He's gonna like he's gonna cause them to rise up and go, "We're not kissing anybody's ring, man. Up yours," or something like that. And so I think that's kind of what could happen, and the fact that yeah, May, June, July. I don't know. I don't have an exact date, but it's a year and a half. It's the year and a half thing, like the year and a half thing that happened with the October 13 puzzle. The puzzle is kind of like a puzzle. October 13, 2023. We said that the crash, or that the system was going to begin to have its change into a new currency. That's really what the crash means, is a new currency. So they're going to crash it to get a new currency. And so when we gave that word, I gave that word for October the 13th, 2020. I had that information 2 years in advance. And then you look at a year and a half exactly, which is my word with uh, Gideon, not Gideon, but I'm getting tired, y'all. With our brother Jonah, had get a little with Jonah and Nineveh and the whole thing, and my Nineveh experiences that I've had. My year and a half thing. So we got a year and a half with that one. That's actually this week when the shaking began with the markets and all that. It began to shake this week. It's about almost exactly a year and a half. And then we have another year and a half from the time Trump, the Nineveh with Trump. A year and a half from that is when, putting the puzzle together is the next year and a half thing that will be in May or June. That I don't know exactly what's going to happen on those couple of weeks in there, or that day or whatever, but it's going to be very shaking. It's going to be like compared to the earthquake when it finally shook in Lubbock. It shook people up, just like it shook people up when the market began to crash the last few days. That shook people up. That was a shaking. It was actually an earthquake in a spiritual sense, shaking things. So the same thing in May and June. It's going to be the same thing. Whether they actually put together the the actual digital system or whatever currency they're going to have, where they actually bring it out at that time, whether the bank something happens to, I don't know. I don't know exactly, but they're not going to let it crash. See, that's the whole point that I'm making. The man-made crash means that Trump is stopping it from having a natural crash, which is the word that I got. Uh, and so, yeah, I thought that was pretty big too. I thought that was really big, actually. Man-made crash, and all of a sudden, here he is crashing it, on purpose. So it blew my mind.
When Glenn, he mentioned earlier when you were talking about the banks and the mortgages and different things, what made me think? It made me think of what you were talking about close to 2 years ago, and I'll never forget this word you said. You said that your word said that Chase Bank would be inoperable.
Right.
It would cease to be operating. So I don't know if that has something to do with
Yeah,
that either, but
I know.
it seems like it could tie in.
The
It
thing
does.
is, I mean, the way that I perceive the word with the more detail to it, it doesn't really agree 100% with Randy, with his control crash. I mean, a crash, if you crash a car, you still gotta, get the bodies out of it and then repair it if it's repairable. And then, how do you I mean, maybe not a bad or a good comparison, but the issue is that according to Brandon, he says the economy is much worse than people perceive it, and so Trump's not going to be able to do everything he wants, and there will be some sort of backlash to it. Now, when the banks basically have a bank holiday, see now, 1929, it was a repeat. People all of a sudden found out the markets had gone down, and the banks decided to just lock their doors. If you did not have your money in your hand by that time, you did not get it. So what happened in 29 is supposedly similar to what he's explaining now. But the thing about it is someone had said that there was how many trillion in people's deposits that's sitting in the banks. So you can't keep people's money and then expect them to pay, the mortgage after you do a bank holiday. Basically, they can grab your money and then basically say, well, we're not going to allow you to come back and try to get your money, so we're going to let you have the house or the car. But the problem is you can't eat your car. You can't, you're going to need food. And according to Brandon, there's going to be a backlash with China in the trade wars, and there's going to be empty shelves and people standing in long lines to try to get some groceries. They're wearing clean clothes in the vision, so I mean, I don't know exactly that it means that it's really messy or dirty or whatever have you. But the bottom line is, there's a little bit difference in comparison with what Randy is saying, that this control is really controlled. Where according to Brandon, basically that there's going to be a time, and that's unknown, the way I perceive it, that there's going to be people looking for food that aren't going to find it. Now, how long that's going to last or whatever, but that is according to his dream and outline. Now, the only thing I was going to throw out there, you said you got excited and you went and bought a bunch of chickens. You're thinking, okay, this is it, whatever you said.
Yeah.
So I had done that move a long time ago, thinking that, it would be best to have something in the pantry at any given time. But the thing is you can go out to the store and you can buy, energy bars or whatever. But eventually, time goes by, and you either give them away, eat them, or they expire or whatever have you. And then, you're, maybe replenishing the pantry again. So the question always comes up, I guess you would call it the prepper realm. If somebody was going to prepare, to try to at least tide themselves over for a certain amount of time, what would be the best way to do it? And so I'm not saying this is the ultimate way, but this is the way I did it, is that there's certain stores like Sam's Club, where it's a division of Walmart naturally. And so if you're a member there for like $50 a year, you can go in there and they sell stuff that's in mega containers. You buy a huge box of cereal. So basically what I did is I got myself a bunch of jars of peanut butter. Now, peanut butter has a fairly long shelf life, and I don't know, I haven't tested it from 10 years ago, whether or not 10 years ago peanut butter would still be workable today. But, considering, how many years do we have left, and if things happen tomorrow, if you had some big mega jars of peanut butter, and I even got some jelly too, and I know the jelly's probably not as long lasting, and then buy yourselves the bread that you like from the store and put it in the freezer. I have a whole freezer full of frozen bread. And then if the time comes, I can pull one out. An expiration date don't matter after it's frozen. Basically, you pull out a half a loaf, you let it defrost, and you eat that, and then you bring the next half out or whatever. And so you can, for as long as the power stays on, and we don't have a power problem where your freezer goes down, and then that's all out the window. But that's what I did. Peanut butter, jelly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Bread's in the freezer.
Yeah. So one of the things.
You're on the right track. I've done that as well, and I'm sure you've seen this at the big box stores. They have that 25-year shelf life big jar container, the Patriot. It's called the Patriot or whatever. But I bought a few of those, and it has a 25-year shelf life of all kind of things of vegetables, of meats. But you're talking freeze dried. You're talking like the military. Right. Well, I have a bunch of that too. So that's the secondary backup, but the first backup is the peanut butter jelly and the frozen bread. But yeah, there's not everybody can afford. I think it was about $750 worth of stuff that was all freeze dried, and all you do is add water to it. And exactly. So there's big business out there with the Patriot Foods. And we got Randy's chicken, so okay. But see,
yeah.
We have a year and a half now. Again, with the shakeup, right? Everyone just kind of just buys a little bit extra until then. Now there's no big line and no big crazy stuff going on. If we know there's going to be a shakeup, whether it's good, bad, or whatever, if shakeup's coming next summer, start preparing now, just little by little. That's how people should have to be.
Right, and I do not know. I want to make it really clear, and I know you're not saying that I'm saying anything, but I want to make it really clear that I do not know what kind of shakeup that means. Whether we may wake up on one of those days or something, and all of a sudden they said, "Yeah, Elon and I came up together with this thing, and we're going to change everything over into some currency thing, and maybe give everybody a chance to go to their bank and not do the bank thing, but give everybody a chance to take their money if they're on Trump's side, if they believe in Trump, what he's doing, and get your digital money and maybe make it a real good thing." So it may not be. I have said this recently that again, the statement that I made about Biden making the economy really bad, taking our sovereignty and handing it over. Basically, without him handing over our sovereignty, I didn't know exactly how that was going to happen exactly, except the fact that when you deal with the dollar, when you deal with our money situation or our treasuries, our monies, which is probably one of the reasons they didn't want them looking in there, because they probably wasted a lot of stuff and just God knows what all they did on purpose. Because my vision that I had about purpose for Biden was that he's supposed to do all that. He's supposed to bring it down to nothing. And then when whoever gets in there next, will just have to turn over the.
He was successful, Randy. I mean, the amount of debt, the inflation. I mean, he succeeded.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. So let me finish that real quick, and I thank you for sharing that. But so I made that assumption that word was given to me, in which I've talked about many times on the show, how Biden's job was to do that was his job. That's why this guy who couldn't think straight, blah blah blah, whatever people want to say about it, was appointed to get in there, was to do that. That was his job, and he did a good job of it. And now Trump, I just said this a few days ago. Now Trump and them are finding out just how bad it really is, and I said it tonight again, that it's worse than they think, because they don't know how Biden did all that stuff. He did a good job of just bringing the economy down for the United States of America. And now Trump and them are digging through. That's why they're digging through it, not because they're curious to see what's in there and see how much it got wasted. They're finding out that it's much worse than they think, because that's what I told them. I said this about Biden. He's going to make it worse than anybody thinks. He's going to bring it down. That's his job. So now that they're doing this, and Brandon Biggs, who I'm bigger than Brandon is, and my words will always be bigger than Brandon's. Always. I don't care how big he gets. No. So his word about it being worse than they think, I think that's really right on. That's what makes him almost as big as me. I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta. Glenn just stirs me up, man. I gotta come I coming at him all over the place here. It's all in fun. But Brandon, and I think that's right. I think that, but I prophesied that way before Brandon Biggs ever blinked an eye in the Holy Ghost. No, I don't know. I'm just kidding. But because we talked about that with Biden for 4 years, that was his job. So now that Biggs comes up and gives his big word, it ain't that big. Mine is bigger than his, because I said he's going to do it the whole time. That was his job. And so anyway, so now they're going to find out that that's true, that Chandler's word with little Biggs in there. It's going to find out just how true it is. and that the purpose that I said God's trying to accomplish here is accomplished basically in Biden accomplished it. So and so what Big said I thought was so cool, and I think that you had brought this up that I liked what he was saying was that they're going to be so overwhelmed with when they find out what's going on, that what they find out what Biden did, which we prophesied about way before Biggs did. Okay, I was trying to rub that in, Rick, for our archive people, so they'll know I said that way before he ever said it. Give me some evidence.
Put an asterisk next to it.
Yeah, there you go. So and I love Brandon Biggs. He looks like I'd like to get to him. He's like a wonderful person. But seriously, so that is really what they're finding out right now, and what they're finding out is that because it is worse than they ever dreamed, that's why it's going to turn into a currency, because they're going to say we can't save it. That's what they're going to do. They may not tell everybody they can't save it, but they're hinting already that what the word I gave about Biden, making it where it's not savable, that was his whole purpose in being in office. I said that many, many times. So Brandon Biggs, if you're listening, mwah on that one. I love you, man.
Another way to look at this is that you can't blame Trump for okay, so he was there 4 years ago, and he did do the same thing with going head to head with China, and we're seeing sort of a duplication of the same results with the graphs that they can show us right now between the two terms. But the bottom line is that Brandon, there was a few more things that I didn't mention, and I still probably will just hold them back. The thing is, though, is that if you look at this, is that they're not going to be able to repair it all the way down to the bottom. Basically, when someone says there's a bank holiday, they know that basically they're at the very end of the road, and they're just going to keep your money, and that's not going to make a lot of people happy. I don't believe, according to what Brandon said, is that there's going to be, after they convert it to digital, that you go back down to the bank and get your digital version of what you had. Basically, they're just keeping the money because there's so much debt. I don't have the answer to exactly how they're going to get things fired back up. But there's going to be a time, according to Brandon, that there's going to be, people that are looking for some food for who knows how much time. And he did say that there would be rioting, during this time frame. So that means a lot of people that are looking for food, and they're not happy campers.
Well, if you remember, and I know that Daryl will remember this. I said the same thing. They're gonna, but exactly. He's saying he doesn't keep up very much, so we'd have to just love him anyway. But I said the exact same. Hang on a second. Hang on just a second, please. So what I'm saying is now, I'm saying the Trump system and the global system are two different systems. The global system, they're not going to, I already said this years ago, that they're going to wake up one day and they're going to have the money anymore. That's why I said, make sure, I told people, I said, watch the banks, get your money out. When I tell you to get your money out, get your money out. That's why I said that. Not because, but what we have is what people are going to have to understand. And I'm glad you messed that up for me so I could straighten it out so people can know. What I said was that if Trump, and I'm not even know if Trump, and they were going to do this, if they do it under control, then they're going to be changing the digital system and give you a chance to get your money. That's the Trump system. The other system, they're not going to do that. I've already said that. That's one of the first things I ever said a couple of years ago or longer, a while back, that you're going to wake up one morning and you're not going to get your money. You were on the show, Glenn. We talked about that. I can't believe you're saying that. You must have forgot. But anyway, so that's kind of what's going on with that. We have two different systems. Let me make it clear one more time so we have archivers that listen to it. What I'm saying is, contrary to what Glenn is saying, is that the system people of the global system, of the Antichrist system, or the Mark of the Beast system, you're not gonna get your money back. I have already warned my market friends that exact information. I warned them. I got the text to prove it. These are people who have big money in the market realm that are friends of mine that I've It doesn't matter. But I told them 2 years ago. I don't remember exactly what it was. I had to look at the text. I said, do not play with this thing. If you don't have your money out of that system this time, not like last time in 2008, you got your money back because they did get their money back. But this time, you're not going to get your money back. I said, you got to make sure and get that money out of there, and listen. Call me up once in a while, and if I get something, I'll tell you. But I already warned them about that. But I'm not talking about that with people with Trump, and I'm not even saying Trump's going to do it. But if Trump and Elon come up with a thing, they're going to be if they do it for America, they're going to let Americans, get a chance to go in there and get their money. Okay, Glenn, that's what I said exactly. So everybody can understand clearly what I'm saying, other than what other people say I'm saying. Okay, it's okay because we're saying a lot of stuff tonight.
But what I'm saying is that Brandon and Mr. Biggs is bigger than Chandler. Basically,
No, it's not.
He believes that Trump isn't going to be Superman here, and that basically, he isn't going to be able to stop it from going totally under, and so it's not going to be his fault. Nobody can blame him. But then the thing is then it's rock bottom, and then you're talking about the banking system trying to explain all of a sudden they just decided to close the doors and keep your money. Basically, I don't believe Trump is going to be fully in on all of that, according to my understanding of what Brandon is saying.
Okay.
So the whole thing is
cool.
I understand what you're saying, and
okay.
I'm not going to go up against that. It's just that when Brandon says this is too far gone, and Trump isn't going to be able to do everything meticulously and convert it and start things up. And also, Brandon goes on to say that, when bars have something called the last call, that this opportunity or this window, however long it is going to be, with the disruption of economics or whatnot, when is the best time to get the attention of people on this earth? And it's when they are hurting and they don't have enough green in their wallet, and that means that they're suffering and they're struggling, and so they are more apt to hear God. And so according to Brandon, this window is also going to be a time for awakening and revival. And so what other time, where people are down and things aren't going so good, that God's going to use it to, bust open, some spiritual stuff, some healing, some revival meetings. And on top of that, now this is the kicker. God said there would be a transfer of wealth, from the wicked. And so now there's been a lot of speculation of what exactly this is. Now, you've already done what you're going to do with your gold and silver and whatnot, and I've done a little of that myself. But according to Brandon, when you put all of this together, we're going to have cryptocurrency involved in the new digital realm. Okay, and the SWIFT system, as the other guy that signed off a little bit ago, he basically, put the definition of SWIFT up there on the screen.
Yeah.
And basically that because we know for absolute sure that cryptocurrency has to come on board to make these financial transactions almost instant, that the wealth transfer, Brandon's already prophesied that he has like 4 pillars, and basically he even named a couple of these cryptos, and he had plain out said, and now naturally he's got to put a disclaimer up. I'm not a financial advisor. I am not giving you any financial advice. I'm not telling you to go buy anything.
Yeah, I got it.
But God told him, and there's a video recently that came out. If you dig deep enough for those people that are listening out there, Kim Clement gave a word, I don't know what year it was, but he was at his keyboard and he's playing, and then all of a sudden he goes into his thing and he says, okay, God's got this and whatever. And he basically said, something so close. It was to me, it's not coincidence. But he put the letters X and P and something in between, and he says that God told me this is something down the road, right? So Brandon has said to anybody that was willing to listen that there's a company called Ripple, and they created their Bitcoin equivalent, and they call it XRP. And so basically, God is supposedly, according to Brandon, going to transfer much wealth through people who are willing to hook up and basically it's kind of like buying a stock. It's just crypto is a little different realm. And acquire XRP, and it will multiply and basically pay for all the things that we need in the Christian community as far as the revival and everything else. And the thing is XRP originally was hovering around 50, 60 cents. It had a lawsuit. It went up to like $3.30, but now everything is down, and it's hovering around $2. Okay. So, once again, I'm just throwing it out there for people to, if you want to go to Brandon's page, you can go to my website, but all the information is there that he says, if you acquire some XRP, that it will be multiplied numerous times over, and that will be another way for everyone to beat this bank closure.
Okay, and I'm saying that I don't know if I agree with any of that, but I just got to make that statement, just like you make your statement.
As figured.
Yeah, I have to make my statement. I don't know that I agree with any of that, so I'm not saying that, and that's not from Randy Chenna Ministries. That is from some other wonderful people. Kim Commit was a great guy. Him and I had a little conflict over Huckabee. He called Huckabee some names. It was so funny. I never forget it, man. Anyway, he also talked. All these guys are giving words about something that kind of got messed up a little bit, but he did that thing on the dinar, the Iraqi dinar.
Oh, the Iraqi money.
Yeah, the Iraqi money. And so far, it may do something in the future, but so far, and that's been many years ago, it ain't done nothing, because I've had people trying to I've had people send me the Iraqi dinar. I've got some. And it's just they were hoping that somehow if they gave it to a man of God, it might get blessed or something. I don't know what they were thinking exactly, but it's not blessed yet. I don't know if it ever will be, but hopefully it will be for those who invested in it. I have a lot of friends who did. I never did. I never bought any of it, but I never bought any of that stuff that he's talking about ever. But if God leads you to do something, then do it. Make sure God's speaking to you, because there's going to be a lot of sucking up and sucking out things. So just make sure God's speaking to you before you get into that. That's because this is my uh, uh, outlet. Randy Cherry Ministries. I have to say all that to clear my name on any of that. All right. Plus, we got somebody who's a really big fan of, what was his name again? Gandon Briggs. Gandon Briggs. Gandon Briggs dot glory or something like that. Something like that. Anyway, that was a diversion strategy on my part. Anyway, you guys know who we're talking about. Most people that listen to PGN know who Brandon Biggs is, I think. So anyway, believe me, if I didn't want his name said or anybody's name said, I would not allow it. Believe me, I would not be ashamed or afraid, no matter how many people say, you don't let anybody else. I don't really care what anybody thinks about that. If I decide that's what it's going to be, if it's my corporation, my thing, I'll do whatever I want, and I pay the price on everything anyway. So as far as saying things that people don't like, so I welcome it. I welcome all of it. I really don't mind. I just have to clarify all of it. All right, you guys, this has been really great tonight, man. We have really just packed up some stuff, and man, dude, we had Graybill on with us tonight. You mentioned him earlier, Glenn, about having mentioned that information about, what was that?
The SWIFT system. He
explained the SWIFT system. Yeah.
What it is. I mean, the IFT makes more sense, because it's an abbreviation.
Okay.
The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications.
SWIFT.
That's a mouthful.
That is.
So I mean, basically, you're just talking.
I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there right now.
Of the world, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. Thank you for that. And you've talked about Swift before, so there you go. James talks about it there. If you want to see that, you can go to the YouTube thing. I think if you go to the archive, when you go to the archive, they have the same, they have all the same information of everybody who's commented, right? Can you see it on the archive?
Well, it's I don't know about the archives, but it's up there on the chat
I know it's up.
right
I know it's
now.
up on there now, but I think it's going to be up there on the archive too. I think anybody who chats, but I really don't know. I've never done it. So this has been great, Glenn. Not Glenn. Uh,
Talking to
Daryl.
me?
Daryl. Yes.
Right? Yes.
Uh, so tell us, what do you think about Brandon Biggs, huh? No, not really. I'm just kidding.
You know,
But
as much as this is the first time I've heard of him, and maybe I've heard Glenn mention him on the show before, but it's I say it's something. It's and I've heard this is also. Let me go back to you again, Randy. What you have said a couple years ago. You mentioned on the show once. You said that what Glenn just said. He said that you said that God gives prophets different things to hear about. You know,
yeah,
so different words.
yeah,
I've heard you say that. So I thought that was really
big. You
insightful.
thought that was really
What I would
big
like
of me, big, Biggs.
yeah, but you know, now here's the thing: since you are archiving and you want the truth out, Randy, and this is one thing I want clarity on. Which I think I have it, but I just want to make sure everyone understands.
Okay.
Which when you were talking about 2008, you were telling people, they got their money then, but they won't be able to get it back now. So what I want to ask you is that in the stock market? Is that in the banks? Does that encompass all their money, everything when it deals with money, the market, the banks,
Yeah, all
everything?
of
When
it.
you say you won't be able to get it back, or
Yeah, I think so.
does
I think it's going to be all of it. I don't have a specific word on all of it, but I'm
okay,
thinking, generally speaking, again, we have, for the archivers and listeners, we have two different systems we're talking about tonight. We have one that it looks like Trump and Elon Musk may put together. And like I said, again, Elon Musk is like Pharaoh in a sense. He's not a quote a godly Christian guy who's doing all this stuff. He does crazy stuff. He's kind of like Pharaoh, but Pharaoh was smart and he saw what Joseph had and he let Joseph run everything. So that tells you something about some of these people, even though they're not quote godly. So I want to make my stance on that really clear. That I'm not saying
okay,
good or bad on because people mentioned it on chat and different things. I'm not saying good or bad about him. I'm just saying that as a businessman. So I don't know when they put something together, if they do put something together, that they're going to. That I'm sure that they will allow people to, you know, they're not going to take their money from them. Uh, and but when the mark of the beast system does it, they're going to be pretty. They're going to be pretty like controlling and dominating and take full control fast because they know the way they rule is they take full control fast. Once they got you, then they got you. How they're going to get you, like somebody said earlier, with your money. So they will pretty much just shut down everything, and then you have to sign your life away in the mark of the beast thing to get your money, or to get any way to eat or whatever, or eat or drink, like the Bible says. So I think that that's the case there. So I want to make sure and divide those things, those two things out. And I don't even know. To me, it looks like they're going to come up with a system. And like I said earlier tonight, that the reason that all this sign of the year and a half from October the 13th, when we said the system was going to begin to change the way it does business and currencies, that's when that was going to start, which makes no sense to me, except for the fact that now, a year and a half later, exactly, with all the pressures from Israel and all the pressures of the global thing going on, that started on October the 7th, and then 6 days later, October 13th. So when the pressures began with all that, I think that it opened up the door for all this stuff to happen, to where Trump and Musk will do their thing, and if they do it as a for America, truly for America, and for Texas, that it's going to be a good thing for people. And doesn't mean Elon's a godly man. People say I can't trust Elon. Well, who could trust? Who's going to trust Pharaoh? Pharaoh and Joseph were, like father and son, but yet they believed in God completely different. So we have to run that through our mind and understand that if we don't, we're going to mess some things up, I think. But yeah, I think that that's what's going to happen. Did I answer the question? I know I went a lot of different places, so sorry.
I think so. I think so. One other thing, again, I always ask you about this, but I know when it happens, I hope you talk about it like a lot. That credit card, that gold credit card, Randy. I'm still looking out for that.
Well, me too. I haven't even checked on it. I thought about that today. I haven't even.
Okay.
I don't think that they. Do you know if they have the debit card thing going on yet? I don't think they do. I-
Yeah,
they're-
I've been trying to check on it, but I know you probably have more information than I do about it.
Well,
But
I haven't even checked.
Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed since before.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They submit a bill and basically, there's been no approval, to
Right.
basically give it the green light and finish it. It
Okay.
always ends up getting buried, and
Okay.
so
That's good enough.
I'd
Hang
have
on a
to
second.
double check.
Okay, that's good. I just need an answer on that. Thank you for that. That's very good information. And I hadn't even checked yet, but if it would have been done, I think I would have heard something about it. I've been so busy going at it, but it's important to me too, Daryl Paul. And the reason that it is, here's what shifted, and I don't understand all of it, but here's what shifted, is that Texas is now supposed to get, maybe they already have it. Maybe Glenn will know about this. They already have their Y'all Street instead of Wall Street, Y'all Street, because they were supposed to move a branch from Chicago to Texas because Texas has what trillions of dollars worth of they're thinking, why do we have that in Chicago when Texas has more money and all that than anybody else does? So they're supposed to move Y'all Street, move what they call Wall Street from Chicago branch to Texas. And so I think that let me answer the question real quick before you say that. And then so I think that if that does happen, and I think that something like that will happen, that's going to make the digital dollar easy, the digital card easy. You see what I'm saying? Because then uh, the powers to be will be, we will actually have our own Wall Street. So I think that having a card is that may be what they're waiting on, possibly. I don't know for sure to make the card thing work. So go ahead, Glenn. You want to say something about that?
Well, I was just y'all, the Texas slang. Instead of saying you all like Wisconsin, yeah, y'all. So I was just creating a little humor.
But y'all are big, but you're not as big as we are. We're big.
Yeah, nothing bigger.
Brandon is big, but he ain't big as Texas.
Mr. Big lives in Oklahoma, but he'd be a lot bigger if he moved to Texas.
He would be. He'd be nice. They need to be fine. He can move in. Him and his family can move in with me over here. That'd be awesome. Okay, so I think that's enough for tonight. I think we've pretty well blown everybody's mind. Maybe I don't really know for sure. Hopefully, we've answered some questions. Daryl, I'm so glad you came on tonight and took the time to come on with us. I really appreciate that.
I like what you were saying. I like what y'all were saying tonight, and I want to get in on it and give my input. It's funny. There's a shirt that I had that said, "I don't do it y'all way. I do it y'all way."
You have that on now?
Now there's somebody bigger than Texas.
Yeah, no kidding. But he's moving to. I think he's going to be moving to Texas. I think they're going to do away with the Israel thing, and they're going to move to Texas. The temple and everything. They probably fly it down or something. The red heifer came from Texas,
Yeah, real good information tonight. I appreciate it, and hopefully we get some more information. We can do it again.
Yeah, and I'd love having you on. Always come on if you want to. I mean, you're always welcome to come on, you guys. I love having people on. I love to have somebody to argue with. It's so much fun.
Especially me.
Yeah, especially you dog. I mean, you puppy dog. Yeah, I like dogs. That's why I called you a dog. I like dog. I like doggies. All right, man. Enjoyed you guys. Thank you so much for it, and I appreciate everything. And we will talk to you guys next time we talk to you.
All right.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you much. Okay. Thank you much. Bye bye.